G'day team, thanks for joining us here for another episode of the Grey Man Podcast. I'm your host Harley Fox. Today on the show we've got Xander Lucas. Xander's a veteran of the Australian Army and also the Victorian Police Force. He also had a bit of a stint as a naval officer in the Royal Australian Navy. And currently he's an author, published author, with his book Frontline Earth, The Last Alliance by Xander Lucas. Looking forward to digging into this one. But in the meantime, he's got a great story. He's a great human. Really hope you enjoy the podcast today as much as I enjoyed talking to Xander. Cheers. All right, guys, I've got a little plea for you. I know after checking the numbers that only 3 out of 10 people that watch this podcast regularly are subscribed. So if you're sitting there and you're watching this right now, then please take the time to just hit that subscribe button. Honestly, it costs you nothing. I know I'm flogging a dead horse. Before I was a content creator, I never did it either because I fucking didn't care. But all you need to do is hit that button and it really, really helps the channel grow. That's how the algorithm likes it and decides to send it out to more people, more eyes on it, and eventually I'll get monetized. This is a one-man show. I don't make any money from it currently, but if I can get more people to subscribe, maybe one day I will. And if that day comes, I'll use the money to make the podcast better, to increase the production quality, better equipment, editing software, stuff like that. Really appreciate it, guys. If you could just do me the favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll stop asking if you do. Cheers, guys. Thanks for being here. Enjoy the show. The Grey Man Podcast is a veteran-run platform dedicated to sharing authentic experiences from current and former service members. These stories are shared to foster connection, understanding, and support within the veteran community. Episodes may contain raw, emotionally charged content that some listeners may find distressing. Listener discretion is advised. The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the Grey Man Podcast, its host, or affiliated partners. The Grey Man Podcast assumes no liability for any statements, opinions, or representations made by guests during interviews or discussions. Cool, man.
All right, let's do it.
Thanks for being here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. So, fucking, we could probably either rehash that story or just leave that little bit in.
Oh, we'll rehash it if you want to go from now. Yeah. All right.
Cool, man. So, fucking quite the life you've lived. What do you go by with your multiple names on your multiple?
Well, my first name is Luke, all right, but the pen name is Xander Lucas. So, and you don't have to be a genius to figure out, if you really wanted to track me down on Instagram, you could, my private profile, but that's the profile I use on Instagram. It's my pen name. It's the name I'm using at the moment for the purpose of the book. So, yeah.
Okay. It's your Hollywood name, your stage name.
Well, when I first started writing the book, I realised that a lot of our famous authors, that's not their real names. Stephen King is not Stephen King. Jack Carr is not Jack Carr. They've all got their own real names. Yeah, they're all pen names. So when somebody said you're going to write under a pen name, I thought, okay, well, yeah, I will. It kind of keeps a little bit of privacy to yourself so you don't have to have those two worlds collide, because as the platform on Instagram and everything else is growing, I'm getting a lot of strange messages and requests coming through the inbox and things like that. So it's probably good I do manage it a bit that way.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Keep your private life private.
Exactly right. Right.
I should do that. I know cops do that too. Any emergency services, actually. All my mates have become cops or ambos. All of a sudden their Instagram and Facebook has changed names. And
yeah, I know a lot of guys that just use nicknames, middle names, numbers, even. I mean, just even random letters and numbers, and that's their Instagram handle, all together.
Yeah, I didn't understand it at first, and then I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. It
makes a lot of sense,
dealing
especially
with fucking scumbags.
Yeah, if you're dealing with a person and you've got your name badge out and they can look you up on social media and then start a harassment campaign. It's something you don't want.
Just dropping the hate, rallying the troops.
Exactly. And then, if you're, if my personal Instagram page is just that. It's just pictures of me, my kids, and occasionally I'll post something silly. But it's very nonchalant. It's very not out there at all. But if you're a serving member of the police force or anything like that, you don't want your private life, especially if you're dealing with crooks, or even if you live in the area that you police, you just kind of want to keep those two worlds separate.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, actually blur out the faces of family and stuff. And any coppers and stuff that come on.
Yep.
Cool. So where'd you grow up? Where's little Xander from?
Melbourne boy. So I grew up in a town called Eltham, which is about 35 minutes out of the CBD of Melbourne. And it was, when I first moved there, I was only about 6 years old. And it was a quaint little suburb, very green, very bushy. It was awesome. Now it's a bloody sprawling metropolis. It's just, it's a huge town now. But I grew up there. Great family life, wanted for nothing. Had good parents, had a good sister, good group of friends. Lived around the corner from my primary school. Grew up playing sports and doing all the things that kids, my age back then did. I mean, I'm Gen X, mate. We were never allowed in the house.
Yeah.
So it was your
drinking out of the fire hose.
Yeah,
not fire hose, fucking
not the fire hose, the garden hose, maybe.
The garden hose. Yeah.
But it was that typical Gen X 80s upbringing where you were constantly on your bike. You were to be home by the time the street lights came on, and the moment you finished school, you were kicking the footy with your mates in the street, or you're on your bike, or you're climbing trees, or you're at the park. It was just that things we don't see much anymore, and I even see it with my son now. I'm trying to get him out as much as I can because everyone's addicted to screens these days.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were asked to come inside on a nice day to watch TV, you were just pointed straight to the door.
Yeah.
Go out and have an adventure.
Outside. A lot of parents would just lock the doors and not let you back inside. Unless it was lunchtime or something, they'd let you come in and grab lunch.
My parents knew where I was from about 9 a.m. till about 5 p.m. Occasionally I'd come home for lunch, but the rest of the time we were out, and that was just the way it was. I mean, it's sad to see when you don't see it these days.
100%. It's such a weird thing. It's the over coddling of kids these days, and you wonder sort of what impact that's going to have. Because I'm technically a millennial, I think, because I was born in 81, which I think it switched over from Gen X to millennial in 80.
But you're borderline, mate. You're borderline.
Borderline, yeah. But I grew up the same, right? We're out on the streets, and I tell stories to my daughter about, take 50 cents to the shop and you can choose 50 different lollies. And
oh, God, the local milk bar if you had $1, that's something we don't see anymore either, the local milk bar.
You could play a bunch of video games and get a bag of lollies and
you come home with change out of $2. That was a lot of money back then. Like $2 would get you your sugar fix, a couple of video games or pinball games, and you were set.
Yeah.
That's all you needed for the day. You could almost buy a 3-course bloody meal, with $2 back then.
Yeah. But all that stuff, the rough and tumble and, fending for yourself, and if you have a scrap, you fall off your bike or whatever, and you sort of nurse.
You get on with it.
Yeah.
I constantly came home bleeding.
Yeah.
Coming off your bike, coming off your skateboard, rollerblades, whatever it was, you're always falling down, always hurting yourself. There was no, and your parents went, did you die?
Yeah.
No. Okay, out you go. All right, clean it off. They used to put that bloody stuff that used to sting, that was like a purpley coloured stuff. They used to rub that shit on your knee and you'd be back out in 5 minutes. Short of you needing an ambulance or a medical attention, you were sent straight back outside.
100%. What do you reckon it is that's made us change that? You reckon it's the because we felt neglect from that we don't want to neglect our kids, or that we're worried about them getting fucking kidnapped, or because it feels like it's actually safer now, but we consider it to be more dangerous, right?
I've had a couple of theories on this. Like, I don't think we saw the problems we see today in society. That we don't think we had these problems that we see today in society. I think the internet's a big part of that because
if there was a problems, we didn't know about it because it wasn't in our face all the time.
Exactly, and you weren't exposed to it. Where you're hearing these days, like my son plays Roblox, loves it, right?
Yeah, my daughter too. Yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast the other day. I think it was Sean Ryan's podcast, and he had the ethical hacker on, and
destroyed them. Yeah.
And he was just telling me how many child sex offenders are on that, luring kids. I rang my ex-wife straight away and I said, get him off that. And she's like, you try getting him off that.
But my daughter's played Roblox for years, but I have it like with the
parental guidance and things like that.
Yeah. So she can't message people.
Yeah. Well, I hope it turns out that's what my ex-wife has done as well, which is great. But when you get something like the internet and all these weirdos can actually have got a community where before they might have just been alone by themselves with no way to communicate to the other weirdos who thought like them. Now you've given them this device, which with a couple of strokes of a bloody keyboard, they've united them. And that's just created a whole bunch of drama, in everything, whether it be, like racial hate groups, whether it be, bloody criminal groups, the dark web, things like that. I mean, I've had a bloke that I've spoken to, that's his speciality in the police. He goes into these dark web pages and tries to expose all of these criminal networks, whether it be drugs, whether it be guns, whether it be, KP, whatever it is, and he reckons it's one of the most deeply disturbing things he's seen, and he says it's everywhere.
Yeah, right.
Everywhere.
Yeah, apparently it's pretty fucking scary if you start delving into the dark web.
Yeah, I don't want to go down there. No, I don't. I don't
know how to access it. I don't want to know how to access it.
Exactly right. I don't want to know. And, there was a guy that was I was talking to about 6 months ago, and he had a bit of a checkered past, and he was saying that, he still gets drugs off the dark web.
Yeah, right.
I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, I type in this, he goes into this site, which obviously links him to the dark web, and it arrives via bloody the mail.
Australia Post. Yeah, I've met people that do that. Although you're getting cocaine in the fucking post. Are you out of your mind?
Well,
it's like, well, if the cops come, you say, I didn't order that.
Well,
let's get your fucking name.
The poor constable working the van hasn't got the resources to go check your computer for the dark web. He's got 17 other jobs that he's been given from the shift before. So, the last place, like you said, I don't want to know. I don't want to know how to access it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But yeah, you think it's just the access to information that scares us all now, to fucking wrap them in cotton wool and keep them indoors.
I think it's a combination of things, and I think there's just been a generational flip as well. Where our parents, like we said, outside, do your thing, suck it up. We were held accountable for our mistakes. We were held accountable for if we did the wrong thing, if we were rude, which we knew about it.
Clip over the years,
exactly right. Like, I tell a story, and I've told this story a couple of times. I was 15 or 16 years old, and I'd been at a party, and we got pulled over by the local police. A friend of mine drove. He was 18, and he picked us up from the party. We'd all been drinking, like you do when you're 15, 16. You go to your mum and dad's liquor cabinet and pour about, couple of few drops from every bottle, and you've got this cocktail of just rocket fuel that you're going to be drinking and trying to mix it with a Coke or something like that. We'd be drinking. We were a bit drunk, and this police car pulls us over, and we start singing "What's the Colour of a 2-cent Coin?"
Copper.
Exactly. We think it's funny. Well, this local copper didn't think it was funny. He dragged me out of the car by my ears and slammed my head into the bonnet.
Fucking
and I'm like, and I went and told my dad. I said, "This is what this." I've got this bump on my head. And I said, "This is what this cop did to me, Dad." Dad goes, "Well, don't be a smart ass, and it won't happen." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Now, if a cop did that today, that cop's lost his job. There should be more of that. Like, I mean, these entitled little shits we're seeing in the world today. It just. I saw a kid have an absolute meltdown. This kid was 8 or 9 years old. Absolute meltdown because mum wouldn't give him his phone, phone in the cafe.
Oh, really? Like you saw it in real life?
Yeah. Screamed the place down. And we're all kind of looking at each other going, and she was just, "Oh, no, sweetie, come on. Just lower your voice, please. Lower your voice. There's no need for that. Okay. You can have my phone for 5 minutes." And we all just sitting there going, how about you give the kid a clip across the ear and a kick up the arse and get him out of the cafe and go learn how to be a parent. But, if you say that these days, I'm the bad guy, But anyway, I digress, mate. I digress.
Yeah, I don't know. I think back on those times and like fucking it was good, right? We enjoyed it, made us resilient, made us who we are, and I kind of fear for our kids as to what it's going to lead to for them. But I don't know. My kid's an angel, so I think fucking she'll be all right. Hopefully.
Well,
fingers crossed. I'll make her do Muay Thai.
That's a huge thing as well, and I think that's got a lot to do with it. I know that my son is in jiu-jitsu, and I've watched him become a different person since he started doing that. There seems to be more discipline. There seems to be more focus on things, which is great. I always saw the kids that I grew up with. There was 2 factors that made the difference in which path they took. whether they went down the straight and narrow path or they went on the wrong side of the tracks, and that was team sports was one of them, and father figures. The people that didn't play team sports or didn't have a father figure, they were the ones that went wayside. Everyone else, we were okay. And I think there's a huge thing, especially with team sports. You've got your team. You know, it's not just about you. It's about the team. And you've also got a coach, okay, who's telling you what to do and how to do it and when to do it, and then praising you or giving you criticism, which is all good, you know. And, you know, if you stuffed up on a game, back then you could be told. There was no participation ribbons back then. No participation trophies. You lost. See you next season, try again. You know, but the blokes that, and I think the father figure thing is hugely important. Yeah. Hugely important. I mean, a kid should look at their father as the strongest person they know mentally, physically, emotionally.
Yeah, dad's a superhero, right?
Exactly right. You know, and dad's the protector. If shit goes south, dad's going to be the first to stand up. You know, that's just the way I feel about it. That's
toxic masculinity now, mate. You calm down.
It is toxic masculinity. And if I'm a toxic male, then sign me up, all right? Because, you know, sign me up for more. Because I'll be, if that's what makes a man toxic these days. But yet, you know, the toxic male are the first person through the door, the first person to respond, the first person to help.
Yeah.
You know, I saw a lot of toxic males at Bondi shielding their partners from bullets. That's the type of toxic masculinity we're talking about. I saw a lot of toxic men running towards the sound of gunfire at Bondi. Yeah. I saw a lot of toxic males who are paramedics without anything, with nothing but a bag, a trauma bag. I saw lifeguards doing the same thing. That's apparently being a toxic male these days, being a man. But anyway.
Tackling the gunman.
Yeah, we'll be careful, mate. This might get flagged, you know.
I don't know, 2 Worlds is fucking still going, so.
Very true. Very true. Sam, if you're listening, keep it up, son.
I don't think he listens to me. But maybe.
He might, mate. He might, you know. It only takes one video to go viral, mate. You know what it's like?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, just keep grinding away.
Cool, man. So played a bunch of sports and stuff and kept active. And
grew up playing some of the more unusual sports. Loved AFL footy growing up, loved watching it, was never good at it. But my town that I grew up in actually had the biggest lacrosse club in Australia. So I actually grew up in my primary school years playing lacrosse.
I didn't even know it existed at all in Australia.
But we're actually ranked number 3 in the world.
Fuck off.
I swear to God. Now, let me just say this. USA are number 1, Canada number 2, and well down in the skill level is Australia at number 3. We always finish bronze medal or 4th in the World Championships.
Nobody else plays.
A lot of countries play, but the US and Canada have just got it, you know, that space dominated.
In Canada, I don't know about US, but it's probably the same. In winter, they play hockey, and those same players will play lacrosse in the summer.
Well, actually, lacrosse is Canada's national sport. It's not hockey. It's actually lacrosse. But no, Australia's very good at it. And because the US has their big college system and things like that where, you get college scholarships to go play lacrosse for some of those big schools, there was always an article in the local paper every year of the local kids from Eltham that were going over to play lacrosse in college. So that was, first of all, that was my dream. And then I started playing baseball as well because we had a local baseball club just a couple of suburbs over. And then at the age of 13, I went over to America on a family holiday. And my parents took me to an ice hockey game. And it was a very big game. There was a lot of hype around this particular ice hockey game. And my dad spoke to the concierge at the hotel we're staying at saying, what are the chances of getting tickets to this hockey game? And he said, oh, no, that's not going to happen. There's a new player coming to town. It's a big deal, so forth, so forth. Well, a day or so later, he rings my dad and he says, I've got 2 tickets, but they'll cost you $100 US each. And this is back in 1989.
Yeah, right.
So that's a huge amount of money.
$1,000.
Yeah, and my dad said yes. And it turns out it was Gretzky's first game in Los Angeles. That was why we were up in the nosebleeds. And my dad and I are looking at each other going, what's the big deal about this bloke? We had no idea. And I just said to Dad, I want to play that. And I came home and I started playing ice and roller hockey as well. So played all the unusual sports, but the fundamentals were all there. It was teamwork. They were great games to play as a young man because they were contact games. You could get that anger out that you needed to as a young man. It was good.
Rough.
It was rough.
Games, yeah.
There was some fighting, this, that, and the other, and it was a good time. And they were good sports to play. Yeah.
You still maintain your skate skills?
I don't think I've put skates on in the close to 10 years now. So I'd be scared to. I reckon finding those edges on the ice skates would be a bit difficult at the moment. Although just past Christmas, my immediate circle of friends are all the guys I grew up playing ice hockey with, and they've found some ice hockey tournament in Bangkok, which is apparently like a golden oldies tournament. And they're like, we're going. I'm like, no, we're not. We're not going to that. I put skates on in 10 years. I'll fall flat on my face.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time in Canada. But I remember the first few years as I was there, I fell in love with hockey. I used to go watch the Calgary Flames play all the time, and we'd play little shinny pickup games on the local rinks and stuff. And I love it because you could just fucking grab your skates, walk out the backyard to fucking any pond, and there's always going to be people playing and have a game. And I fell in love with it, and I came back here and I tried to join a local team, and it's like completely dominated by figure skaters.
Yeah.
So the ice hockey team gets to train once a week, and it's at 10 p.m. on like a Thursday night, and they play one game a week, and it's after all the figure skating's finished. So that's also at like 10, 11 p.m. They finish at like 1 a.m.
It used to be that way. The professional league that we have here in Australia now is very, very good. And you're seeing, we've had an Australian make the NHL, Nathan Walker, and he plays for the St. Louis Blues, I believe. But I tried to go to one of the local games about 6 or 7 years ago, and at the big ice arena down there in Melbourne, and couldn't get in.
Oh,
it's 1,500 seats sold out. I couldn't believe it. And, the players are rocking up in suits and in team blazers with a girl on each arm. But like you said, when I was playing, the training times were Saturday morning 4, 5 and 6 a.m.
Holy shit.
Right? And then you go home and you'd play that afternoon or that night. That was basically the day reserved for hockey. But it's changed now. People are starting to realise what a good game it is.
Yeah, right. I love those games. Like my two favourite sports are NRL and ice hockey because they're fast, hard hitting, and the NRL you can't punch on anymore, but ice hockey it's still
you can still drop the gloves. You just saw what happened in the Four Nations early last year. The Canada versus USA, there was 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the game. They
can't wait for it.
Yeah, well, the game was in Canada, and the US national anthem started playing, and the Canadian crowd booed it. And Matthew, you could just see Matthew Katuck's face just getting angrier and angrier. The puck drops, boom, off come the gloves. It's on. He gets thrown in the bin. All right, let's start the game again. Puck drops. His brother Brady, he drops the gloves. Boom, it's on again. I'm like, this is insane. And I'm like, surely it's not going to be the third one. JT Miller, who's one of the guys that plays for my team in the New York Rangers, not a fighter. Puck drops, boom, now he's going. So three fights, 9 seconds. And it set the tone. The Yanks came and beat the Canadians in that game. They lost the tournament, but it was fantastic to see. It was absolutely fantastic to see.
I went to one of the local teams, I guess it'd be similar to like Q Cup or something, one of the sort of under the pro.
Yep.
Which is they're called the Calgary Hitmen. And dude, fucking whatever the fights you see in NHL, triple that for
the juniors. The Jungle Juniors were
mate, they just punt. There was one point of the game where every fucking player on the ice punched on, and then they all got put in the bins, and the whole rink is just full of gloves and sticks, and the whole game was on pause for 2 minutes while they were all sitting in the sin bin.
The junior leagues it's fantastic hockey because this is where these kids are going to eventually make the NHL if they do. But then you've got your journeymen who aren't going to make it. So there's a lot of guys who are just there to be the goon, to be the enforcer. I made the mistake once when I was trying out for a team in Canada, and I wasn't impressing the coach whatsoever.
Were you living over there?
I was living over there. I was working when I was about 20, 21 years old. And the whole purpose of me going over was to improve my game. Working holiday, improve my game, have some fun.
Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm nowhere near as fast. I just don't have the puck handling skills that these guys have. I'm not impressing the coaches whatsoever. So my stupid bloody brain goes, okay, I'm going to fight someone. I'll show the coach I can fight. And I skate up to this kid. He's about my size. And I stick him in the back and he turns around and he goes, you want to go? And I was like, here's my chance. Off come the gloves. Now, mate, I swear to God, this kid had a fist that covered the radius of my face. Within 2 seconds, he's got me tangled up in my jersey to the point I've never had it tangled up like that, where my left hand was completely gone. So I've got and I'm trying to throw like T-Rex punches, they're just not going anywhere. He proceeded to beat the living shit out of me on the ice there. And he must have fed me 16 uppercuts. And as the jersey comes back over my head, I'm just bleeding everywhere. And I just looked at the coach and went, that was embarrassing. And he just looked at me and goes, go see the doc. And he stitched me up. I got a couple of stitches here. And we're back in the change room and the practice finishes. And I'm still pissed. I'm still angry that I just lost this fight. This kid that's just beat the shit out of me. Turns out he was only 17 years old and I'm 20, 21 at the time. He comes and sits next to me and he goes, you good? And I'm, you good? You just beat the shit out of me. How do you think I am? And he goes, yeah, I got you with a couple of good ones there, right?
Hey.
And I'm like, yeah, you did. And then we started laughing about it. And that's the culture. I mean, you can see that in ice hockey, especially where they've got the two team goons that will fight.
Yeah.
And the moment the fight's over, they'll give each other a little nod or a little tap on the head, like, good one. We did our jobs. And then they'll go, and then you'll see them chatting to each other in the penalty box about life in general. There's things on YouTube. Two guys have just beat the shit out of each other and they'll say like, hey, Mike, how's the kids? Yeah, they're good, mate. 7 and 8 years old now. And they've just beat the snot out of each other on the ice. But it's a job to them. That's all it is. Yeah. You
gotta love it, eh? Not like the NRL players that fucking hold a grudge the whole time. I fucking hate that guy. Cool. And lacrosse is the same, eh? They punch on all the time. People don't realise that.
Yeah, very, very rough game. Not at the college standard, but the box lacrosse and the similar to the junior leagues and things like that. So there's an indoor version of lacrosse. It's called box lacrosse, where they basically play in an ice rink without the ice.
Yeah, right.
And that's a really rough game. That's a really rough game. Yeah.
Cool. So you're fucking hardened by these rough and tumble games, and then what sort of jobs were you kicking around back then?
I think, growing up, I worked in a bakery for about 5 minutes, cleaning the pie pans, which was the horrendous job.
Were you trying to go pro with the sports?
Oh, God, no. I was anywhere near as good as that. I was literally just doing it for me, to improve my game so I could come back here and, play better, and working holidays, things like that. But no, the jobs I was doing, the first job out of high school, I actually worked at a store that sold ice hockey equipment, rollerblades, snowboards, things like that. That was fun. I did, bullshit sales rep jobs. Remember Optus Vision back in the day? It was like the before Foxtel.
Yeah.
I was doing door-to-door sales for that. It was making my life miserable, and I just said one day. I remember the real catalyst for me is I drove home once and I got done for drink driving, and I could see where my life was going if I had not decided to take this path, because I was partying. I'm a young man. And I knew where I needed to get more focused on things. So I said I think I'm going to join the army, because I still had dreams of being a police officer. Now that I've been done for drink driving, I'm like, I'm never going to be a cop. I'm never going to be a cop. I'm never going to get the opportunity. And so I said, I'll join the army. And that friend said, he goes, join the reserves first, see what you think about it.
Yeah, right.
And see how you go. So that sounds like fun. And so I remember just walking in there one day to Defence Force recruitment and sitting down there, and there's the person there from the recruitment giving a little spiel, and he's playing these cool videos and, what would you like to do? I said, infantry, So, okay, go into this room, and they've got this great video package, and there's me and about 6 other guys. Then they bring a guy in from the Special Forces, and he's got his green beret on, and he's got his, his full, tunic on, this, that, and the other, like there to sell the dream. And I'm like, yep, that's for me, so I still signed up that day, as literally signed the papers that day to join the Army Reserve. They gave me my testing. It was very different back then. Put me in another room. I did a whole bunch of tests. They came back. Okay, thank you. Next thing you know, I'm getting a phone call. Come can you come in and do a fitness test on this particular day? Yeah, I can do that, not a problem. And then next thing you know, I've got a start date.
Yeah. Right.
And that was I was going into training around the Christmas holidays of 1997.
Okay.
So a long time ago now. And it was a different world back then. It was a different, there was no political correctness.
No.
They could still rule with an iron fist. There was still things they could get away with back then that you could not get away with today.
Yeah.
Just because of the world we live in these days. You don't want to upset anyone, this, that, and the other, despite the fact you're trying to train the country's, warriors.
Fighters, yeah.
we're still making sure they're okay, But
I had mums calling when we were at Cerberus and Kapooka, actually. When I was at Cerberus, some kid, his mum called and told them off for mistreating her son. And same thing at Kapooka had happened as well. Somebody's mum called and got in trouble for yelling at their son.
It's funny you should say that because my course was the first course they didn't gas us.
They didn't gas you?
Didn't gas us. And the corporals were pissed about it. They're like, if you had been here last month, you would have experienced what tear gas is. But and it turns out there was
came back.
Somebody from the previous course heard they're going to get gassed, knows somebody in Canberra. No, can't do it anymore. And that was it. That was as quickly as it was there, it was gone. And and they were pissed and they were angry at us about it. I'm like, it's not our fault. We didn't do it. We didn't ring up. I mean, it was. As I was, on the bus before I even hopped off the bus. And I've got peroxide blonde hair. And I remember being at recruit when we get on the bus and we've got to stop and pick up some other people. We've got to go to the airport and wait for the people from Adelaide to come over.
Oh, yeah.
And then
do a couple of stops.
So by the time we got to Kapooka, it was well after midnight. So we're tired, we're confused. Everyone was all chirpy on the bus until you actually drive through those gates and you see, home of the soldier, welcome to Kapooka. And it all got very real at that stage. And the military policeman hops on the bus and he's there. He's got his red lid on and he walks up the bus. He's got this torch and he's just walking down the aisle with his torch and he stops at me and he says, "Is that your natural hair colour?" I said, "No, it's not." And he goes, "No, it's not, Corporal." And I went, "Oh, no, it's not, Corporal." And he pulls out his little book and he's like, "Under military code, section 2-4, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to charge you for changing your appearance." I'm like, I haven't even hopped off the fucking bus. I'm about to be fucking charged by the military policeman. Because in my mind, they were shaving my head anyway, so it didn't matter to me, right?
Yeah.
And even the corporals, when they saw me, "Oh, I can't wait to shave your head." I'm like, yeah, okay, I knew that was going to be part of it. It's not a big deal to me. Yeah, and but it was a different world back then. We did our field exercises back at Kapooka, and I got called over. I'd come over here and I'd walk over and he's, "Where's your rifle?" "Oh, it's over there." I had to sleep with it for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So as we're getting ready to go to bed, they'd call me out. I'd go to the armory down at the end of the hall there at Kapooka. They'd pull out my rifle and I would sleep with it. Because you never leave your rifle behind. Now, I never left my rifle behind ever again. And the lesson was learned, right? But if you did that today, fuck, you're done. I stuffed up once and the corporal came across and clipped me across the back of the ear.
Mm.
Now, I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, "Oh, all right, I stuffed up. Fuck, that hurt. All right, won't do that again." You did that today, you're done.
No, you can't even fucking threaten that.
Well, I did hear a rumour that they had cards that they could flash at people, stress cards.
I've heard that rumour too, yeah.
I never got that confirmed. I never met anyone, but if that's true, then that's...
I did hear it from a pretty credible source, so I think it might be true, yeah.
Okay, so what's going to happen when the enemy's coming over the hill? Do you pull it out? "Sorry, got my red card. Please don't stick me with that bayonet. I've got a red card." And you don't seem to understand. "I've got the fucking red card." And as it's been driven into your chest,
You don't pull it on the enemy. When your set goes, "Go fucking get up there. Don't yell at me, Corporal. Fucking engage." Fucking pull out your red card.
What do we think? What are we doing? What are we doing? The whole purpose of the Army, Navy and Air Force is to generate the country's warriors.
Yeah. You know, as much as talking about getting cancelled, as much as everyone's fucking hating the US, I love the fucking Ministry of War and the Secretary of War, and like you're creating war fighters. Stop fucking babying and watering down and fucking trying to dilute warriors into fucking, you know, there's got to be a level of political correctness and, you know, cut out a bit of racism and stuff and belittling and making people feel like a piece of shit. But also you're trying to create hard and fucking warriors that can go into a contact and not fucking shit themselves. Yeah.
I mean, I think Pete Hesgate, whatever his name is.
Hesgarth, I think.
Hesgarth, he isn't popular amongst some of the generals from what it looks like. But he's not taking a backwards step.
Oh, fat fucks.
Like you go there and just say,
the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen.
And so he should. He should. You know, set the tone, lead by example.
Put the donut down.
You know, like if you're telling these men to go charge up a hill and face a machine gun, you know, and you have to be fit to do so, then the person giving the order should be able to do it as well.
You see them, him and JFK, JFK Jr.?
Yep. RFK Jr.
RFK. Fucking a couple of days after he released that video, they posted a video of those two at a gym with a bunch of soldiers.
Yep, working out.
Pumping fucking chin-ups. RFK was doing chin-ups.
Listen, RFK's in his 70s, and to have a physique like that, I'm not judging on what he might be taking. I'm all for it. You do you, son, right? But I was very impressed, and watching him there in his jeans, lifting weights and doing chin-ups and things like that, and he's ripped.
Fucking good on him.
Hey, exactly, and that's the way it should be. I mean, the physical standards shouldn't drop.
No,
and that's what they've said in the States. You know, that was the beauty about the Marine Corps. They're the only part of the American Defence Force that never dropped their standards.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Army dropped it, Air Force dropped it, Navy dropped it. Don't get me started on the Navy's current here in Australia. Their current. We can talk about that if you want, because I've got some stories. But the Marine Corps said, no, this is the standard. You meet it or you don't, or you're not a Marine.
Yeah,
and they're high. There's still chin-up tests. There's still push-up tests. There's run tests. There's, lift tests, things you have to do as a frontline soldier to be able to do the job.
Yeah.
Marines
are frontline. The removing of gates doesn't do anything for the fucking individual or the Defence Force as a whole, except reduce capability, and the individuals themselves are just getting injured because they're removing the gates. Okay, you don't need to pass your BFA anymore, Ikapuka. Go straight to your unit. That's your unit's problem now. They're the ones in charge of getting you physically fit. But no, because if you can't do the minimum fucking standard, which is the absolute minimum, how the fuck are you going to carry a pack? When you get to your unit, they're not going, oh, this guy needs 6 months of fucking remedial training.
Remedial PT,
yeah. They're going fucking, all right, you're here now. You're one of the boys. Fucking
exactly.
Get your back on. We're going for a fucking stomp.
There's not an almost platoon.
Yeah. You're almost ready.
It's not you're almost there. Okay, you're straight in.
Yeah.
Oh, you're here. Great. There's your platoon over there. They're your boys. Go be with them.
Yeah.
And those boys should now know, okay, he's been through the training.
He's ready to go.
He's ready to go.
Yeah. No, but they're not.
We are sounding like the two grumpiest old fucks. Right there. We really are. But that's fine.
Going down a bit of a tangent. But.
Yeah, well, but it was like, Kapuka back then, you had standards. We all met them. The people that didn't went to the I can't remember what it was called.
The
platoon where we called it the reject platoon. If they got injured or they couldn't meet a standard, they went there until they could get it.
Fucking Jolly Roger platoon. It's got a what's it called? No, I don't know.
It'll come to me. But we had one of the girls that couldn't do the push-ups, and I think was only 8, and she was really struggling. She went there, and basically that's all she did until she could make the standard. Then she came back.
Oh, yeah.
And hats off to her. All right, so that's good. And then we had people that were, obviously you get injured, you can't help getting injured. That's just, part and parcel of it.
Yeah, injuries are different. Yeah.
But, then we had one guy that couldn't do the run. couldn't do the 2.4. He'd get halfway and he'd be just gassed. I'm like, well, how did he pass the beep test to even get in?
Passed it and then sucked beers and fucking chilled out until he got there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just the way it works out. So
your phone? Someone's talking. I think
wasn't mine.
Google answering you or Siri. Yeah. I worked as a rehab consultant on base and in an infantry battalion actually. So I saw dudes that were coming in that hadn't passed their way through Singo to get there, and they were just injured immediately. So they never got to fucking actually do a day of the job because they came in injured. It's it's ridiculous. Anywho, standards are fucked.
They are. So, but yeah,
while we're still on it, I guess we'll fucking touch on it now. The Navy's removed all fucking gates.
All of it.
And they're fucking proud of it. They're like, don't worry about fucking being fit enough to join. We'll get you fit with our professional PTIs. What?
You know what the funny thing is about the Navy PT standards at the moment? I went to Creswell, which we'll touch on later, and did all the original job I was signing up for was for clearance diver.
Oh, yeah.
And they said I had some respiratory issues, and but I had to get a minimum of a 10.1 on the beep test to even qualify. This is during the recruitment process. And the day I ran up to the recruitment process, there was a bunch of guys going to Duntroon. I was the only Navy person there. I guess they just slotted me into this PT time slot, and they had to, all these officer cadets had to meet a minimum standard of 7.5 on the beep test.
Yeah. And
there was 20 of us in the line, and it gets to 7.5 and they all stop. 18 stop. They've met the standard, and now there's me and this other young kid who's built like a greyhound, and he's doing it with ease. He's going to keep going. And I'm like, good, because I'm a terrible runner. And I just, right, here's my pace stick now. So I actually moved closer to him he was probably 5 or 6 meters away. I actually moved closer to him so I could literally use him as a pace stick. And I hit the 10.1. He was still going, so I'm still going. I went to like basically the wheels fall off. I got to like 10.6 and the wheels fell off. I'm like, right, I'm done. But I looked at here I am, and at the time I was 46 years old, and I look over, there's a bunch of 20, 21-year-old kids who are high-fiving each other because they got to the minimum standard.
We had a girl. There was actually so much fucking drama after it happened. But she did so you got the beep test, the push-ups, the sit-ups for your, was it PFA? So she did the 7.5 and she had to do 8 push-ups. So she did 8 push-ups, and she had to do 30 sit-ups. So she did 30 sit-ups. And everybody else, we had there was a warrant officer PTI and a couple of corporals there, and they were fucking pushing everyone. Like they were fucking good dudes, like real green. So they were like, this is the minimum standard. Nobody is to fucking stop at the minimum standard. You to do your best. So she stopped, and she didn't look gassed or anything. So they called her Just Enough, and then her nickname for the next couple of weeks was Just Enough. It turns out she had a fucking dad that was like a senior fucking officer.
Of course.
So all these 3 fucking 2 secos and a woe got fucking grilled for belittling Just Enough.
Yeah. I mean, what can you do? I mean, this could be the entire podcast. You and I just bitching and moaning about how it used to be and how we were so much better at physical stuff. But, we've got other things to talk about.
Fuck. Anyway, you want to join the military, go hard. Don't do just enough.
Exactly. But no, the reserve time was a lot of fun. And during that time, I did a full-time, what they called it a full-time contract. But I was and I was working at the land engineering agency down there in Melbourne, which was the small arms testing division of the Australian Army. And the reason I got that, I was doing security work for a company as well at the time. This is all before I joined the police. And it was this small range down in Maribyrnong, down in Melbourne, this two-lane underground range. And that's where all the engineers for this agency did all the testing. This is just as Afghanistan is broken out. So we're doing all the new weapons tests. I'm one of the first soldiers to have my hands on all these brand new weapons, and then we're putting them through every type of scenario test. Sand test, this, that, and the other. They actually brought earth, sand, and things like that from Afghanistan. So we could put it in a tub. Right. And like put an M4 in a whole bunch of it to see how it react to that. These are the types of tests I did. But all I did for almost a year was pull triggers and blew shit up. It was a great job. It was so much fun. I got to be on the anti-material rifle trial, which the 50 caliber sniper rifles.
Anti-material.
Yeah, AMR rifles. So the Barretts, the AWs, all these things like that. Phenomenal weapons. These are the same weapons that have caused all these poor blokes that went to Iraq, the concussion syndrome, things like that. All these young blokes have got early onset dementia and things like that. I was firing a couple of 100 rounds of these things a day. It's in the Army PAM now. You're not meant to fire any more than 50. And we were just blasting away on these things. We had a great time. Thankfully, it didn't do any damage to me, to my... Who knows? It probably has, but it was a great job. And doing that, I was also in the doing private security as well. And the company that I worked for had several contracts with the record studios and movie studios. So anyone famous that would come to Melbourne, this guy would look after them and would be part of his crew, doing all the in-store appearances and taking them from hotel to radio station, all this kind of stuff. And this is back in the day where someone famous, things like bands like Destiny's Child with Beyonce, when they were first starting, we were rocking up to High Point City Shopping Centre so they could do in-stores to sign CDs. People would be lining up for 4 hours and just signing their CD. They don't happen anymore. These things don't happen. It was crazy. And the biggest crowds we saw for these types of things was the original Big Brother cast.
Hey.
When they all got out of the house, they did like this national tour. Like tens of thousands of people were turning up to these appearances. Mm-hmm. And the original Bardot, remember that? The Pop Stars TV show with Sophie Monk and all that kind of stuff. It was like the original manufactured band here in Australia. They were called Bardot. It was like a five-piece girl band.
Oh, yeah.
And it was huge. I went down to Tasmania with them as part of the tour. Not a lot of big acts turn up to Hobart. All of Tasmania turned up for this thing. It was insane. And he said everyone was always pretty cool. I mean, they would always say hello. And then we get this, we've got a job this Saturday. It's at the Hard Rock Cafe. It's an in-store appearance. So, okay, who's it with? He goes, just meet me here at this time and we'll tell you. So we actually met at a cafe just down the road from the Hard Rock Cafe. And the guy that I'm working for hands me this form and says, what's this? And he goes, it's a non-disclosure agreement. I need you to read it. What the fuck is a non-disclosure agreement? So I'm reading through it, and this and I can see the artist's name up the top. And it was things like, you're not to look him in the eye. You're not to talk to him. You're not to stand within 3 meters of him. I'm like, who the fuck, what is going on here? He goes, this is what we have to do. That artist was known by P. Diddy at the time. Now,
probably good not to be fucking 3 meters.
Oh, well, I'm glad there was no baby oil around but he rocked up to the, now I'm a young man at the time. I'm like, so he rocks up and I'm standing at the door of the venue and I intentionally pulled my sunglasses down and just looked at him. The entire time, like, fuck you, who the fuck you think you are, and as it turned out, I was spot on with my feelings towards that guy. But
mate,
I was doing all that, and
Pete
Diddler, Sean Combs, whatever the fuck you wanted to be known by, you're a freak and not a good person from the sounds of it. So
I was a little fucking gangster when I was a kid. Used to listen to rap and stuff growing up. Tupac was my main man. I got fucking, that's from one of his songs, A Rose That Grew From Concrete. Yep. And for every dark night, there's a brighter day. And mate, I was fucking furious when I found out about I always fucking thought it was Puffy, but now it's confirmed.
Biggie.
I was fucking yelling at the TV the other.
Well, him and Biggie, he's been linked to both.
Yeah, he sort of ushered Biggie to his death because Biggie didn't want to be on the West Coast because he knew that they were going to retaliate. And Puffy wanted to fucking rub it in their faces.
Well, you're doing, 10 years? No, not even. He's probably going to end up doing like 3 or 4 years because they only got him on the lesser charges, didn't they?
He's only got 50 months, but apparently there's like 75 pending charges. So,
okay.
So he might get the full fucking serving.
I reckon he's got a dead man switch. I don't think he'll do that.
I reckon if he gets out, he'll be killed for sure, I reckon.
It's very unusual that the Department of Homeland Security were the people that did the raids on his house. Now, if that's not saying this guy's got some shit on some people, and when they rip the walls apart, every wall's got a hidden camera in it. I mean, there's a reason they went and did it. I mean,
dead man switch like fucking Epstein. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, basically, so if they want to give him the extra time, he'll that goes public.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on conspiracies. The book's full of them.
Fuck. Have a look at your little fucking notes here. Oh, yeah, that's normal shit. Mattress getting thrown out the window. That happens all the time.
Oh, yeah, the mattress. Yeah, God.
Singo. Moved private security. That's where we're at. Fucking big brother. Oh, yeah. So how long were you in the army for?
So it was 7 years in total between the Chocos and the 2 years I did on that contract with LEA. And in between that I went up to Singo to do my infantry training. And that was another disastrous time as well. Like we rocked up to Singo, there was myself and about 30 other chocks that needed to get their qualifications to be fully qualified as an infantry soldier. And the bus pulls in. We were flown up there. Bus picks us up. Bus drives us to Singo. And we get to the front gates and there's, that just a security guard there at the gate. He goes, who are you blokes? I'm like, we're here to start training. We start training tomorrow. Got nothing here. Hang on, let me make some calls. Gets on the phone. He lets the bus in. And then we end up just kind of hanging around this parking area. Finally, a warrant officer comes out. This is the weekend. He's in his civvy clothes. It's a Sunday afternoon, and he says, who are you blokes? Oh, we're from several different units from Melbourne, sir. We're all here to do our infantry training. Don't know what you're talking about. Got nothing on. I mean, somehow it had got lost between Melbourne and Singo that 30 blokes were coming up to do training. They had to call 3 corporals off leave and a lieutenant off leave to come and do our training. You can imagine how welcoming they were, when they've been called off their leave.
Definitely all your fault.
Oh my God, we just got absolutely fucking hammered. Like it was eventually they calmed down eventually, but that first week was hell. I mean, they were angry at us. Like it was not our fault. Like we don't do the paperwork, we just get told what to do. But I mean, and it was a different time there as well. Like it was, Singo was still, the place it's meant to be, and I still think it is to a certain degree from what I've heard. Although there's been a lot of improvements made there, I do believe in regards to rehabilitation, training, recovery, all that kind of stuff that we never had. And that was what was the dog's name? Was it Tracker or Digger that used to be walking around? It was like a German Shepherd. It used to basically just live on base, and it would follow the platoons everywhere you go. But it was a good time. We did half of it there and half of it Pucker, and that's where I met Greg Sher, my good mate. He joined to do the commando training, and I'd always been interested in that. And he was getting this qualification because he was told that if he gets his qualification in this time, he could then go and do the selection course. And we spoke to one of the corporals up there at Singo, and he said, he goes, all right, if you do well here, I'll write you a recommendation to do it. And I remember saying, can I do that as well? So, all right, if you do well, I'll write you a recommendation as well. So we when everyone else was on the nights off they were hitting the boozer and this, that and the other, we stayed, trained, did chin-ups, did push-ups, went pack marching, things like that. And, Greg ended up going on to continue to go to the Commandos, but in the first selection he did his knee. And I actually got through that selection, but was told I needed to come back because I wasn't mature enough to start training. Despite that, they let us parade down at 2 Commando.
Yeah, well.
For a little while anyway, before they kicked us back to 5-6 until we were qualified. But no, it was good, and that was the relationship I started with Greg. And when I joined the police, which we'll get into, Greg was Jewish, and he had a job as one of the head bodyguards for one of the rabbis in the Caulfield area, and my first station was Caulfield. So we continued our relationship from there as well. So it was just the anniversary of his death on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so 4th of Jan 2009. It's been 17 years since we lost Greg. So
yeah, right.
yeah, but he was that's a great story. I mean, not of him coming from South Africa because his family wanted more religious freedom, coming to Australia, joining the army. He served in Timor, and he was his first tour in Afghanistan. He was killed in a rocket attack, January 4, 2009. Saddest part of that story is when obviously that if you ever hear about a death on the news of a commando, I know that the family's already been told. So as I've spoken to his brother about this, and his brother's at home, there's a knock at the door, and there's the army rabbi with the highest ranking member of the commandos there at the door, and we regret to inform you your brother's been killed in Afghanistan. It's like, shit. He then rings his parents and says, they were out. He said, you got to come home. It's about Greg. What about Greg? His parents didn't know he was in Afghanistan. He told them he was going on a specialist training course for 6 months.
Yeah, right.
Because he didn't want his parents to worry. That's the way they found out their son was killed.
Brutal.
That's crazy, isn't it? But that was Greg. That was Greg. He was like, I don't want anyone to worry about me.
Yeah.
So his brother knew, his partner knew, his parents didn't. So can you imagine wherever they were having to drive home, and then there's the army rabbi and the officer from the commandos saying, "Oh, your son's dead," and the mum said, "You've made a mistake. He's not in Afghanistan. He's in Sydney training."
Yeah, right. Make it hard to believe.
Yeah, and then that's when his brother had to say, "No, he didn't tell you he was going because he didn't want you to worry." That was 19 years ago. And I remember when I found out that he'd passed, probably in a sign of things to come, my old Facebook page. And you probably remember how this worked back in the early days. If you had two mutual friends, and you remember you could write on each other's walls, and if you had two mutual friends that knew each other, that stuff would appear in your newsfeed, type of thing. And I remember two reservist guys who were both actually cops as well, because I was a cop by this stage. And he says, one guy says to another, just to let you know, Greg Sher was killed in Afghanistan. And I'm just scrolling through my computer. I'm like, hang on. Fuck. That's the way I found out through a social media post. Mm-hmm. It was a sign of things to come, of how things would play out. But 19 years. Unbelievable.
So you never, what made you want to give up the army dreams?
The dream was always policing.
Oh, okay.
The
dream
dream
was a stepping stone.
Yeah, it was like a stepping stone, and I loved it. Don't get me wrong, still do. Still look back at it. Despite the fact it was only reserve service for most of the time, but I look back at it with a lot of pride. And I had a lot of fun, made some great friends. But the goal was always policing, and I got accepted into the academy. It was Squad 13 of 02. So that was the last squad of 02, which was October 02, and we graduated in October 02 to March 03. That was my academy time.
What was the academy like compared to Kapuka?
It was, we got one of the last courses of the old school. before things started to switch, which I was thankful for. But I already saw, even in my course, the way policing was heading. Because just a few months before, the new commissioner, Christine Nixon, took over. And her goal was to make half the police force female, and she was going to change the system and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. You don't change a system like that overnight and start, getting rid of squads and doing this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. Just going back onto the PT side of things, I saw, in my mind, if you didn't pass anything, you didn't get through. I really struggled academically there because I hadn't studied for a long time. So I'd be studying my ass off to get through all these law exams, which were happening every week. Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday, you'd be studying for this thing. You'd study more on the weekend. Monday morning, then the following Monday, you had your exam, and you start the next component of the course. I would be studying 24/7, right? And then the moment I'd finished studying, I'd hit the gym. You'd have certain things you had to pass and things. I saw one of the girls in my squad who didn't pass anything physically, but played the card. She was gay and she was being discriminated against. They let her through. Now, I like this person. She was a good person, but she played that card and she got through. She has to then go work the van.
Work the van means work on the street.
Work on the street. Work the van. Work in the divisional van.
Yeah.
She's not up to the physical standard. If you have to get into a fight, chase someone on foot, help somebody out that's come up, urgently, you have to be fit. You have to be able to do these things. But the academy itself was incredibly easy. I remember people in my academy squad going, "Oh my God, they're so strict here." Please, it was the senior sergeant of the operational skills section was a guy by the name of Dave Brattel, Senior Sergeant Dave Brattel. He's passed away now, and he was just your classic regimental bloke. He'd spent years, went to Vietnam with the Armoured Corps.
Oh, yeah.
Got his stick, he'd be walking around and he'd be doing all those classic lines and, pointing at you, shave. I suggest one of two things: get a new razor or stand closer to the one you've got. All that kind of bullshit. It was him to a T, right? And do we have any military personnel here? I said, I'll put my hand up. And he says, "Oh, what were?" I said, "Army infantry." He goes, "Shit corps, Armoured Corps rules," and he just walked out. He was that type of bloke, but he was in charge of all the drill and the discipline and everything like that. Old school copper. Yeah, as I said, he passed away now, but he's no longer with us. But he was probably the last of that breed.
You have I know if you go through the academy these days, there'll be fucking a plethora of other ex-army dudes there. Was there a bunch of soldiers going through?
Not at my time. I was there. There was maybe because there was a squad just ahead of us, or probably 3 months into us, and there was a couple, and there was two squads. There was a couple of army guys there, and I was the only person with any military experience.
Yeah.
There, so the drill was simple. I got bored during drill because, my God, I've done this to death. Mm-hmm. As I said, I really struggled academically, but I did very well physically, defensive tactics, and shooting.
Yeah.
And the shooting was with the old 38s.
A revolver.
So the old 38 revolvers. So I mean, it was a long time before Victoria transitioned to a pistol, to a semi-automatic pistol. But now we were doing the shooting with the old 38 pistols. But it was my first station was Caulfield, which was the predominant Jewish area of Melbourne, and there was me and 5 others from my squad that got Caulfield. They were desperate for people, so we all got positioned there. But the first thing you do after you finish at the academy in Victoria is you go to the city for a week, and it was back then it was called the City Patrol Group, which is now called the Melbourne East Police Station, and you learn how to do traffic direction. They'll stick you in the centre of Flinders and Swanson Street and turn off the lights. And you're like, shit. So you're like, yeah, and it's one of the scariest things you do, especially when you're a young guy. It's just like you're standing there and it's up to you. You're sitting there in your big yellow raincoat. and trying to direct traffic.
What's the fucking method behind that? Method to that madness?
Well, they teach you how to do it, but it's just, when you're sitting in the middle of standing in the middle of that intersection and cars are just whipping by you, and you've got hook turns and things like that in Melbourne as well. Yeah. So it was that's what you did. That's what you did, and they put you on foot patrols and things like that. Just gave you a feel for it, and from there, you do your week there. Then you go to the booze buses, the traffic alcohol section, and because there was such a massive gap between the last squad that graduated at the academy and when we graduated, we had to do 3 months at traffic alcohol section. 3 months on the booze bus, twilight shifts. It was hell. It was absolute hell.
Speaking about booze, you said before you were worried that you wouldn't get in because of your...
Yeah, well, just going back to that, it was today I don't think they'd let you in. But, they brought it up and I said, listen, young person, made a stupid mistake. I don't want to be judged on that mistake alone. I'm not a big drinker. It was just I had too many. I thought I was fine. I shouldn't have driven. My mistake. I wore it. They accepted that. I don't think they'd do that these days. I don't think they'd do it, which I think is wrong because plenty of us have made mistakes growing up. Plenty of us have done stupid things when we're growing up. You're probably losing a lot of good candidates for first responding roles because of minor infractions from your past, which I think is wrong because no one's perfect. Yeah. Nobody's perfect. So did the 3 months there, and that was an eye-opening experience. I had Chopper Reed come through my booze bus once.
What?
Mark Brandon Reed. He pulls up right up to my section, and I looked at him. He looked at me. I recognised him straight away. He just looked at me and goes, "Don't worry, mate. I haven't been drinking." I said, "Thank fuck for that. You're the last person." I actually had a few interactions with him. My Chopper Reed stories are quite funny. But you did my 3 months there, and then we started at Caulfield, which was and the first shift that I did was a night shift. And the way the night shifts worked back then, I'm not sure if it's changed slightly different. It's changed now because of the fatigue factor that we're putting on coppers. But it's used to start on a Sunday night, and you used to do 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. and you'd do that for 7 days, and there'd be a series of quick changeovers after that. Meaning that you'd only get like 8 hours between the time you finished work and the time you were back on shift. And they did that a couple of times, then you get your days off. Oh, yeah. And we rocked up at Caulfield, and as myself and one of my other squad mates were also on this night shift. And I get put with this guy. His name's Peter Ross. Now, at that stage, he'd been in the job for about 30 years. You can see he's ready to go. He's just seeing out his time. But he's a leading senior connie, and he's going to teach us how to do the ropes. And this night shift, I mean, anything could go wrong, did go wrong. It was just an absolute baptism of fire. And, we've been on the shift. It's the Sunday night, and I'm doing the sheet. He's driving. I'm, doing the sheet, and I'm telling him what I'm doing. And, yep, that's good, mate. Yep, keep going on. He goes, "We're just going to pull this car over here." I said, "Okay, cool." And he said, "Go get the rego down." And so I get on the radio, and I did the rego check. And it comes back, "Is that car on the move?" "Well, yeah." And Rossi goes, "Oh, shit." Puts the lights on. This car takes off. It's stolen. That's why the operator on the other said, "Is that car on the move?" Because it's come up stolen. We're in a pursuit. Right? Fantastic. I'm like, whoo, here we go. Fucking first night, let's go. And, we're racing through, and it got called off. Right, but it got called off just as the car made a left-hand turn. We'd also made the left-hand turn, and they'd crashed. They'd crashed in the back of another car. And I thought there was two drivers, two people in the car. I see the driver get out, and he starts. Let me rephrase it. There was two drivers, two people in the car. I thought I saw the driver hop out first, and then I looked out. I looked to my side, and I see one guy sprinting away. And the driver was close to me. And Rossi just looked at me and goes, "Off you go." Now, Rossi's older, a little bit out of shape at this stage. And I start chasing the first guy. And I catch up to him quickly. And was in a park. I've crash tackled him, handcuffs on, click, put the first one on. I'm like, I can still see the other guy running away. Fuck. I dragged this guy over to the slide. and I handcuff him to the base of the slide. I'm in pursuit for the second one, chasing the guy. I don't know it at the time, but in that process, I've actually knocked my radio and I've turned my channel to a different channel. And I'm now, don't know where I am. I've only been in this area once before. I'm now in the dark. I'm looking around, and then up in the bushes, I see something move. I'm like, there he is. And I'm now in a fight with this guy on somebody's front lawn. And I've got my torch, and I'm giving this guy a whack across the legs. The owner of the house comes out and goes, what the fuck is going on here? And I'm calling on my radio that Caulfield 311 needs assistance. And they're coming back and he goes, mate, you're on the wrong channel. I'm like, what? And I look at my radio and I can see I've knocked the dial and I've changed the channel. And so I say to the guy at the house, I said, mate, call the police, tell them where we are, right? I start hearing something. By this stage, I've got the guy restrained. He wasn't a big guy, but I've got him restrained. Other cars start rocking up. The detectives rock up. They've slapped the cuffs on him. I'm feeling pretty bloody good about myself. My chest out here. My policing is fucking easy. Cop of the year. Here I go. Right? No drama. So there's a bit of a debrief, and Rossi gives me a bit of a nod, like, good job, well done. And it turns out these guys had done a series of burgs, so all we had to do was our statement of the night and what I did, and the detectives were taking over. So we get back to the station, and the senior sergeant the patrol senior sergeant was looking after all the areas of the night shift, and the inspector's there. They call me in. I think I'm up for a fucking commendation. I'm walking in. Please. They gave me the biggest fucking bollocking I've ever experienced in my entire life. They fucking tore shreds off me. You don't fucking go off like fucking we didn't know where you were. Fucking we had the fucking air wing up, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm thought to myself, did I not just catch two crooks? Fucking Medal of Valor right here. What the fuck is going on? So I get this absolute bollocking, and I'm on this inspector's shit list now. Like, he's so pissed off. And but I got the nods of approval from the people at the station. Yeah. You know, I got the nod from the sergeants. I got the nod from the senior sergeant. So, and that was the first night of night shift.
Yeah, right.
Mate, I swear to God, second night of night shift, I'm with Rossi again, and he's just like, let's just keep it calm tonight, all right, mate? Let's just keep it calm. Okay, cool, mate. No problems, right? He doesn't want the paperwork. He's seen his time out. And the call comes across for a domestic. The most common thing you're getting called to as a police officer is domestic disputes. And we rock up, and it's just a nice area in Caulfield, and it's a cul-de-sac type of situation. And as we're approaching, we can see the neighbours are coming out of their front yard, and they're pointing towards the house where the victim comes running down in her pyjamas, and she's covered in blood. And she's bleeding from her face, her head, her pyjamas are soaked. One of the neighbours comes around, and we get a brief description. He said he's lost his mind. He's given her a beating. This is not the first time the police have come up here. This is what the neighbours are telling us. Rossi's on the radio doing his thing, and I said to Rossi, should we go up? And he goes, yep, just take it easy. All right, yep, cool. And I remember it distinctly because the house was really nice. It was a really nice house. And there was this long hallway from the front door, and you can see rooms, that are along the hallway. And, mate, just like a movie, this guy appears, and he's in nothing but his underwear, and he just appears to the end of the hallway, just standing there. In one hand, he's got a huge kitchen knife, and the other hand, he's got a meat mallet. Mm-hmm. You know what you used to beat a steak down with? Yeah. And then just starts fucking Terminator walking towards us. And I'm just and I remember just getting yanked back by Rossi. And we're now walking backwards, and Rossi's pulled out his spray and sprayed him. He just walks through it like it's nothing. What the fuck is going on here? We don't have tasers back then. Tasers are a specialist thing that only specialist units have at that stage.
So you just have a gut and
I've got a spray baton and a 38 Smith & Wesson revolver. So I pulled it, and this guy's got a knife. I'm like, okay, and we're walking backwards, and Rossi can see that I've got my shooter out, and he's just like, hold. And I'm like, mate, if he decides, and I know he's only 10 metres away from us. He can cover that distance very, very quickly if he wants it. So you're not meant to do this, but I actually drew a mental line in the sand. I'm like, if this guy comes over that line, I'm shooting him. And I remember going from here to actually lining up his chest and actually taking aim with the front side. and I started putting pressure on the trigger. And these are the old 38, so I could actually see the hammer coming back. And just as I'm doing that, this hand comes on my shoulder and he goes, no. And I quickly look like that. I can see it's a cop, but he's not wearing the light blue shirt like me. He's got dark overalls on. And then I see it. It's a guy from a dog squad. He's heard everything that's going on the radio. He's only a K down the road. He's raced forward. And he just looks at me and goes, we'll let Crackers take this one, mate.
Crackers.
Crackers is a black German Shepherd. Crackers just absolutely just lets him go. And Crackers jumps, gets him down, first goes for the wrist, the forearm where he's holding the knife. He drops the knife. The guy goes down to the ground. Then Crackers attaches himself to the guy's arse cheek. And that's how he's holding him down. The dog squad guy has gone in first and put, everyone's like pile onto the guy. He's gone and pulled Crackers off. We've managed to get the cuffs on. It's all under control. I mean, I'm talking half a pound more of trigger pressure, and that guy was getting shot. It came that close. And he's screaming, and I look at his leg, and his leg's just covered in blood. And Crackers has taken a huge chunk out of his arse cheek. So we get the first aid kit, and we're patching up the wound on his wrist and his bum cheek. And the paramedics turned up, and they've looked at it, and they said, "Where's the flesh?" I said, "What do you mean, where's the flesh?" And he's literally got a hole, a bite-sized hole taken out of his arse cheek. He said, "Well, where's the flesh? Because we can patch that."
Crackers ate it.
Crackers has swallowed it. Crackers has literally torn this guy a new arsehole. and we're like, holy shit. And so the paramedics have taken him away, and Rossi just looks at me, and we hop back in the car, and he goes, "You're a fucking shit magnet."
Yeah, I was going to say fucking first night,
he goes,
second
"Tomorrow
night,
you're in the fucking watch house. You're not leaving the fucking station." All right, yeah, cool. Everyone had to do that anyway. We kind of all shared the responsibilities of the night shift, and do the shift in the watch house. Incredibly boring at night shift. You spend most of the time just watching movies, catching up on some paperwork, or doing your briefs, all that kind of stuff. The next night we go out. As I said, this is all the same night shift, and I'm with Rossi again, and the message comes through. There's a death message to deliver. And he says to me, "This will be a good one for you, mate. Good one good one for your portfolio that you can sign off and say you've done." So, okay, cool. I'm going through my training at the academy, how you deliver a death message, and I'm like, okay. So and it turns out what had happened is there was a car accident in East St Kilda. The car had smashed into a pole. It had knocked both the drivers out. The engine had caught fire. The boys died in the fire, basically burnt to death in this fire. Horrendous accident. And we got the details of that. And we're like, oh, God, So we go up to the house, we knock on the door, and it's 2 a.m. in the morning. The police are knocking at your door at 2 a.m. It's never good news. It's never, hey, guess what? You've won a new car. It's never anything like that.
especially if your kid's not home.
Yeah, and so we knock on the door, and the mum, stumbles down. She's got a dressing gown on. She's like, she opens the door, and I said, "Can we, introduce ourselves? Can we come in?" She goes, "Yeah, what's wrong?" I can't remember the guy's name. We'll just call it, John. I said, "We regret to inform you, John's been killed in a car accident." And Mum goes nuts, falls to the ground. You just heard your son's been killed. The sister is woken up by the scream. She comes running down the stairs. "What's happened? John's dead. John's dead." Oh shit! The dad appears from another staircase and comes running up the stairs. "What the hell is going on here?" "See, I'm really sorry, but your son John's been killed in a car accident." "No, he's not. He's downstairs watching the rugby with me." By this stage, I'm looking at Rossi. Rossi's looking at me. And I said, "Is this?" Yeah. So can you go and get John? The mum by this stage, "What's going on? This is some kind of a sick joke. What the? By this stage, I'm feeling physically ill. Right, my guts is churning. Now, it was I remember distinctly, it was during the time of it was either the rugby league or rugby union World Cup, so there was a lot of late matches. It was being played overseas. John rocks up. Oh, Mum just starts hugging me because she's like, "Mum, what the fuck is going on?" I said, "John, do you own a car registration?" So she goes, "Sold it yesterday."
Oh, fuck.
Sold it yesterday, private sale, hasn't gone through the system yet. So that was the last known address of the car. So we've gone, it was a mail, meet you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
everything else was burnt, so we couldn't tell. And so I said, mate, I just remember hearing that and going, oh, shit. The dad could see the funny side to it. He just looked at me and goes, come on, boys, I'll put the kettle on. We're both like this. Right? We've just delivered a death message to someone who wasn't dead.
Oh, fuck.
Caused this poor woman the worst night of her life and delivered this death message. Now, it's not funny because 2 young men died in this accident. So we said, have you got the details of the who you sold the car to? And then Rossi goes out and checks with the new owner of the car, and he comes in and he goes, it's not in our area. We don't have to deliver the message. I'm like, oh, thank God for that. So that was the first. This is, as I said, all in the first night shift, and it was just insane. And then you finish the night shifts and you start doing the transition to the day shifts, the afternoon shifts and the day shifts before you get days off. And it's the morning of the first day shift. And I'm once again with Rossi, who by this stage does not want to work with me ever again. I've just caused him so much paperwork and grief. And we get another death message to deliver. And I just said, let's just make sure we're on the same page here, Rossi. Let's make sure this person's dead this time. He's like, yeah. So, we're going through the whole thing. And it's a guy who's an old man who's died up in a nursing home in Queensland. He's only known next of kin down here in Melbourne. And we, sorry to inform you, your dad's died up in the nursing home in Queensland. And this guy looks at me and goes, fucking about time. I'm like, I'm sorry. And his wife goes, what's going on? He goes, the old man's dead. They high-five each other. Thanks, guys. That's all. And I'm like, and I look at Rossi and I'm just like, mate, what the fuck is happening? Are we living in a fucking simulation or something? I don't know what the fuck is going on. That was the first night shift at Caulfield, and that was kind of, the trajectory of my career was just pure chaos. And then from Caulfield, I moved to the city. And this is also during the peak of the Underbelly War. Mm. And, where
the
Morans and Carl Williams and all the Carlton crew, all those boys. The famous TV series made about it. There was a lot of poetic license to the TV series.
Good show.
It was a great show, but Carl Williams never actually worked for the Morans. Like they made it out as if he was some kind of a lackey for them. Mm. The Morans, Carl Williams, and one of the bikie clubs all bought a pill press together.
Oh, yeah.
With the gentleman's agreement that they wouldn't undercut each other's prices and they wouldn't impeach on anyone else's area. Of course, Carl Williams doesn't do that. He goes and starts doing everything he's not meant to be doing. That's why the war starts. So I've moved from just before I moved to the city. I'm on a day shift or an afternoon shift with the sergeant. I'm the sergeant's driver for the day. And the sergeant covers the whole area. There's only one patrol sergeant, covering all the areas within a specific zone. And we have got to go over to another area he goes, I've got to get this statement signed. I say, okay, cool. So we come up on the other area's channel and say, we're Caulfield 303, we're in your area. Just getting a statement signed will be about half an hour. Cool. So we're on their channel. Just as he finishes saying that sentence, the call comes that shots fired outside Extreme MMA near Chadstone. And I know the area quite well. And I actually knew the guy that owned that gym.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt your podcast. I just want to take a second to give a quick shout out to Australian Jiu-Jitsu. Australian Jiu-Jitsu is a veteran-owned brand producing patriotic-themed BJJ rash guards and shorts. Head over to their Instagram page. I'll put the link right here, and check them out. If you want to support them and grab some gear, just DM Australian Jiu-Jitsu and go from there. Thanks, guys. Back to the show.
And I went, that's a K down the road. He goes, is it? I said, yep. So we go. And this was the first underbelly homicide. First homicide I saw. First underbelly homicide I saw. And it was Willie Thompson. Now, according to the books and everything else, Willie Thompson was a hot dog vendor, but had a $3 million house in Toorak. The maths didn't maths, whatever. Okay, he might have been selling some very expensive hot dogs. I don't know. But from what we could gather from the initial assessment is he's gone to his car. He's obviously seen some blokes approaching him with a gun because the keys were still in the car door, and he's run off and they've shot him once in the back with a shotgun and then finished him off point blank in the head with a shotgun. There was nothing left. I recognised part of a jaw and a tooth. Fuck. That was the only thing I recognised. That was like the first. That was when policing became super real. It was just like, okay, this is not just you know cruising around in the van looking cool. Yeah. There's real
Speeding
shit, real shit that goes on here, and it's not handing out tickets, all that kind of stuff, But from there, I moved to the city, the Melbourne East Police Station, and that is probably not the best place for a young policeman to be because of the access to alcohol that you have. No. Every nightclub owner, every person that works the door of a club, when you're off duty, that's where you are. I drank more in that 3 years that I was at Melbourne East than I did my entire life. But great time as well. Great crew. Some absolutely sensational people, sergeants, things like that, senior sergeants, inspectors that were all there. Good hard times, good hard policing. There was things like when somebody new comes to the station, they put you in plain clothes. They don't make you shave for a couple of days. You're out there trying to buy heroin and meth off the dealers in the city and things like that.
When you're new,
because the dealers don't know your face.
Oh yeah,
right. And I can put a beanie on and I can grow. Back then I could grow a full beard and after a couple of days and I could blend right in. So I did that for a while as well, which was a lot of fun. A lot of the rave parties as well with all the ecstasy tablets and things like that. There was a lot of that. It was just because we were the new faces. Eventually they catch on because, and they that's the new copper and this. Because then a week later they see you work in the van or work in foot patrol in uniform. But it was just what they did to try to make a difference. But it was a real party station. It was a lot of fun. This was back in the days when we still had police parties. Mm-hmm. And when I say a police party, there was three big ones. Our one, the Melbourne East, which was called Unleash the Beast from the East. That was the name of the party. We literally had posters around the city advertising this party. And we'd book out the Metro nightclub and fill it with all the local, all the people from around the city. And they were blasts of parties, man. They were fantastic. Yeah. You can't do that anymore, of course. Yeah. That's all stopped now. But it was a good time, but you saw a lot of exposure to the harshness of the city, the homeless, the drugs, a lot of drug overdoses in the city, a lot of drug overdoses because that's where everyone buys the heroin. You saw that when I first left the academy, I was like, right, drugs are bad. I'm going to fucking clean up the streets with drugs. 6 months into policing, you're like, oh, this isn't working. This is not working what we're doing. Arresting people for possession of heroin when they're an addict is not fucking helping anyone. Yeah, the people that are dealing it, fuck them, right, and go hard on them. But when somebody's got an addiction, it makes it very hard. And they don't want the addiction. But for whatever reason, they've tried it for the first time. Meth, heroin, it's a dangerous, dangerous slope. And the only way, there should be methods for compulsory detox. That should be the better way to go about it because it's not working. I remember,
lock them up,
catching someone with marijuana, I'm thinking I've just made the biggest drug bust of all time. It got to the stage there was so much fucking paperwork involved in arresting someone with marijuana. I mean, if they passed the attitude test, it'd be like, mate, go smoke it at home. I caught somebody with a gram of marijuana. I'm just like, mate, take it home, smoke it there. Don't cause me the paperwork. And a lot of cops feel that way these days. They're like, why are we still arresting people for marijuana possession? When has somebody smoked a joint ever caused us problems?
Yeah.
What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get a hug and you're going to eat some pizza.
I actually asked a couple of coppers, I was like, now that it's like fucking medically legal and everyone's fucking doing it, do you even bother? Like, nah, we'll fucking usually turn a blind eye.
I mean, short of catching him with 10 kilos in the car.
Yeah.
You know, but if I've got, I remember I caught a guy, so stupid, he literally had it in his top pocket. It was sticking out, this big fat joint. I'm like, mate, no, put it somewhere I'm not going to see it. Right?
Just tuck it in, mate.
Go home and smoke that, enjoy it, but don't cause me the paperwork, mate, for God's sake. It's not worth it. And you see the places in the States when they first started legalising marijuana. Denver, Colorado was the first state to do it. And within 6 months, the state had so much extra money in the state coffers, they didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, right.
Because they were able to tax it, they were able to monitor it. It stopped the violence amongst the gangs because it just became legal. It basically killed the trade, the illegal trade. Yeah. So hospitals, roads, you know, police departments, fire departments, nurses, all got pay grades and, you know, pay rises and upgrades got done. I think it should happen here.
Heard it here first, folks.
Well, yeah, legalise, exactly right. But you know, but then you've got the heroin and the ice and things like that, things that actually affect people's mental state and make them do crazy and violent shit. That guy from The Domestic, he was on meth.
Yeah,
you know, the heroin is killing people. You know, and killing people. You know, some of these. We've even seen fentanyl start coming into Australia now as well, which is a scary bloody concept.
Yeah, I had a dude on not long ago that died and came back from a heroin overdose because it was laced with fentanyl.
Laced with fentanyl. It's fucking horrendous stuff. Now, that stuff, you know, the dealers need to be given 30 years. Mm. But locking people up for possession when they're addicts is not good. It's not good at all. But all the jobs you know, every burg, every theft from a car, every shoplifting, things like 9 times out of 10, it was drug related. They were doing this trying to get money for drugs. You know, these people are dealing in people's misery, dealing in addiction. I just think you're the biggest scumbag of all time. You know, if you're doing it. If you see someone who weighs 40 kilos soaking wet, and they're coming to you, they haven't showered in a couple of days, and you can tell that they are violently addicted to heroin, and you're selling it to them for $50, you're a piece of shit. You're an absolute piece of shit. And you know, a colleague and I did CPR on a girl who'd overdosed on an ecstasy overdose. We'd just finished night shift for walking back to the car park where we used to park. It was a city car park that used to give us a discount on our parking because in the city you couldn't park. And I got to my car first, and he just was further up the ramp. Then I hear him screaming, calling my name. I come running up, and there's this girl in the car park, and he's doing CPR. And you know, I'm on the phone. I'm assisting him with the CPR, and the ambulance comes, and we find out, you know, later down the track that she'd taken ecstasy pills. The binding agent in the autopsy report was Ajax. So just poisoned her bloodstream and she shut her heart down. She died. She was 21 years old.
Like how many people were on the same batch there?
Well, exactly. I mean, and then, you know, you hear, I've heard people say, "Oh, my dealer's normally so reliable." What? Your drug dealer's normally so reliable.
He's a good guy.
He doesn't give a shit about nothing but profit. All right, make no mistake about that. Yeah, so. But it was a crazy time at Melbourne East, but it was a lot of fun at the same time.
How much does the traumatic stuff fucking stick with you? Like seeing the dude with his face blown off and stuff?
Once, I mean, I had, you develop a very thick skin very quickly. You have to. You know, I went to a job at Caulfield where a guy had been, and I wasn't first on scene or anything. We were just, I was again with the sergeant. And we rocked up to this job and the detectives were already there, and he was trying to put a TV up on a wall mount on a stepladder and had fallen back. And the TV literally landed on his head and killed him.
Fuck.
And I walk in there and I'm like, oh, there's literally a TV. And it was one of those big, not like the flat screens, you know, it was one of those big, thick, you know, TVs you used to have back then. And it's landed on his head. It's killed him. It's crushed his skull. It's killed him. And the detective's there and he comes up to me and he says, "I find it very ironic that the television's an LG." And there's this guy literally died dead on the family room floor. His wife is in shock in the kitchen. I had to turn around and walk away because it was about to make me laugh. I'm like, but dude, what are you doing? Don't do that. But that was the type of dark humour you had to come up with because it was just that was what you saw all the time. Yeah. And some people handled it a lot better than others. I mean, I know there was one of the girls that I knew went to a cot death, which is unfortunately a common thing they have to do. You have to do as a police officer because it's the death of a child, so you've got to investigate it potentially as it's a homicide until it gets told otherwise.
Right, yeah.
And it was an Asian family, and they were apologising to her because they could see that she was upset about the death of their child, but she was upset. My colleague was upset because it's a dead baby, and they were apologising to her. We're sorry you had to go through this.
Oh my God!
And she came home. She came back to the station. She was a wreck.
How would you
She was.
How would that even cross your mind? There, you're so distraught.
That's just those some of the things.
So polite.
Like you said though, when I moved to the from Melbourne East, I moved to the Transit Safety Division, and it was the busiest I was at when I was a police officer because
like car accidents.
No, the transit as in trains.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the transit.
Fucking people committing suicide.
So, well, one, you have the train suicides, which are 2 or 3 a week.
Holy fuck!
Across the state. But the senior sergeant at transit said to me once. He said, every area, every suburb has its crooks, and they all get here by the train. Mm-hmm. And, so I was in the city crew and, there was several crews based around the state that would have, direct starts from police station. But I was in the city crew for a long time and a little while down at the Frankston crew. But the city crew, there was a booth at Flinders Street Station. There's a lot of drug dealing on the on the trains and around train stations. Graffiti, of course, massive issue. Tagging and things like that. I learned a lot about that culture, which blew my mind. But then, of course, you have the the suicides. Mm. And I remember when I was down at the Frankston direct start transit crew down there. There was a young kid, and we got called to a train versus person suicide. Train always wins. It's
yeah.
But what this kid had got himself caught up in some kind of stupid thing that he did. He made some online threats on a web page pretending to be, from memory, he was pretending to be a terrorist. He was doing it. He thought it was a laugh. The AFP got involved. It was a big thing. He was arrested, charged, the whole kit and caboodle for these online threats, which turned into an investigation. Turns out it's a 15-year-old kid. In his room on his computer, and he took his own life by jumping onto the train tracks, and placing his head on the track just as the train was starting to go, and just took his head clean off. And you rock up to that scene, and there's a headless corpse there. And you've got to go and deliver that death message. What he meant to say to a parent? What the funny question was? What his mum asked me? What was he wearing? That stuck with me. I was like, was he making sure he was comfortable? I don't know, and I'm not making light of that. But it was just a really funny thing for a mother to ask.
Yeah.
That was one of the first questions. What was he wearing? And I remember telling her he was just in a tracksuit. Oh, okay. Yeah, and
just in shock.
Didn't know what to say. Just absolutely in shock, And then the one that sticks to me the most, and this is still one of those things that sticks with me to this day, that I still think about, is I was in the patrolling car for the city crew, where you just driving around, visiting all the stations, all that kind, different train stations, touching base with the crews who were doing foot patrols. And we went to the North Melbourne train station. We're actually on our way there, and for whatever reason, I'd turned the police radio down for a second because from memory, I was trying to listen to something that was on the actual radio. I forget to turn it up. And then we're actually heading towards the North Melbourne railway station as it happened anyway. And then my phone rings and it's somebody from my office saying, have you got your radio on? I went, oh shit. And I turned it up and it was just, they were calling for the transit car to go to the North Melbourne train station. There's been an accident. And we were literally pulling up. And I remember saying, we're here now. Sorry about that. We're here now. So what had happened is the North Melbourne train station has 3 different platforms. Okay. And if you're getting a train, and it was one of those hub stations where you'd get the trains going to different lines. Yeah. So you'd pull into North Melbourne train station, but you might need to go to a different line. So you'd get off at North Melbourne, and what you'd have to do is you'd have to run up the ramp, go to the main thing, and then run down to one of the other platforms. You couldn't just obviously, walk across the tracks. Yeah. And in the middle of these platforms were these heritage listed news kiosks where they used to sell like newspapers, lollies, cigarettes, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That was still there, and most of them had been converted into coffee places. And so what had happened in this particular accident is the train's pulled in, and this guy's come sprinting off the train because he's obviously got another train to catch on one of the other platforms. So he's come running around one of these kiosks, running as fast as he can. There's a guy on his bike on the platform, which you're not meant to be riding a bike on the platform. He comes running around from the kiosk. He bumps into this guy. Wobble, wobble, wobble. The guy falls into the pit, into the train, as the V-line train comes through.
Brutal.
And I remember rocking up and everyone's yelling and screaming. And it happened like 3 minutes before. And I was first person there. And I've got this kid with me who's, when I say kid, he was very new to the police force. He'd only been in the job for about 3 weeks. And I go to the train, and then somebody says to me, the guy's still alive. He's underneath the train. Fucking hell. All right. I jump down into the pit. I look down, and there's this Asian man. His back is pinned up against the wall, and the wheels of the train are across his legs. Mm. And I look at his legs, and I'm like, "Oh, you're not going to survive that."
No, as soon as you get him out, he'll fucking bleed out.
And the train being across his legs was the only thing keeping him alive at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit. So I get on the radio, I call for everybody. I said, we need MFB here, we need heavy rescue, I need a MICA unit, paramedic crew here ASAP. They're already on their way, right? So I've just emphasised that. And I remember looking at my partner, his name I can't remember, but I took off my belt and I said, I'm going underneath, right? Just as the paramedics were arriving as well. So we're underneath, in the crawl space underneath this train. It's hot. You've got grease dripping down. It's filthy. He's in so much pain. He's got broken English. He's screaming at me, painkiller, painkiller. I'm like, and he's fighting with the paramedics, because they're trying to help him, but he's in so much pain. He's in shock. He doesn't know what to do. I'm almost having to restrain his hands so the paramedics can do their job. And the paramedics are there and they're doing everything they can. And they said, they got the first tourniquet on, and they said, we can't get the second one on. We can't feed it through from the positional men. I said, I've got one. I actually carried a tourniquet on my belt, and I fed it, put it around his leg, and I fed it through to the paramedic from her end. And she goes, yeah, I've got it. And she pulls it, and then she yanks it, and it's just sunk into his leg like it was just mush. And his femoral artery has literally popped out of his leg and just started spraying me with blood. I've got my fist, and I've actually put my fist into his leg, and my hand just sunk into his thigh. And it stopped the bleeding, and then they managed to, the second paramedic came around and said, move, and he moved me back, and then he managed to get in there and started packing it with gauze and this, that, and the other. A firefighter's then reached on, look at, and he says, just tell us when you're ready, we're about to do the lift. And what they had to do, they had to use hydraulics to lift the train up like this, just enough so they could slide him out. Now, I looked up on the platform and I could see they were setting up little curtains. And what has happened is they've called a trauma team from the Royal Melbourne Hospital to be there on the platform for when he comes up. So he's screaming at me, saying, and he's got, as I said, he's got broken English, and I knew his name was Hong. I remember that, and he keeps saying Mushin, Mushin. What the fuck is it? What was it? I said, mate, I don't know what that means. Mushin. I'm like, mate, I'm sorry, mate, I don't know what that means. So he starts going. They give him painkillers. He starts, settling down a bit. He's not fighting with the paramedics as much anymore. I can let him go. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to give him words of encouragement. All right, mate, paramedics are here. Firefighters are here. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. The firefighters, they use these hydraulics to lift the train up, and they slide him out, and they get him up on the platform. And that's when the doctors go to work. They're putting more tourniquets on. They're packing him full of gauze. They're and he's come to again. He's like, Moshen. I'm like, what the? I don't know what that means. Now I look at myself at this stage. I'm covered in train grease, dirt, and I've got blood from my head down to my. This is the days of the light blue shirts, right? And it's just there's blood everywhere. I look like I've just come out of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre scene. And as well, I get my gun belt from my partner. I put it back on. And this lady, another Asian lady, comes up and says, "Do you know what he was saying?" I said, No. He said he was calling for his mother.
Did he live?
For a while, yeah. So we got back. We followed the ambulance to the hospital. The ambulance stopped and then started rocking, and I could see them doing CPR. We've got back to the Royal Melbourne Hospital, and it was funny because they not funny, but I mean it was unusual to see. But they've put him in one of the trauma bays there.
Yeah, flags.
They were still attached, but hanging by threads. Like it was just the bones. I mean, I saw the bones, I saw everything. Like it was just it would have been what an IED blast would have looked like. I would have imagined it was that type of traumatic injury. And as they've got him in one of these, trauma bays, and you've got the head emergency doctor there working hard, and you've just got all the nurses and paramedics. Oh, this is interesting, and they're all looking at it, and I'm like, Jesus, But then that's what they do, and they're interested in how. And I remember hearing the doctor saying, "All right, we've got a pulse. Let's get him into surgery." So it's not going to be an ideal life for him, but he's alive. And this is when I jump back in the car, and I said to my partner, I said, "You all right?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I said, "You sure?" I said, "Talk about it if you want to, mate." And he looks at me and goes, "Mate, look at you. Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm all right." And I get back into the station, and I thought to myself, I think I might go home. It was only a few hours in the shift. I said, "This has been a rough one." And I walk into the station, and one of the sergeants there says, "Hey, one of the girls is from the transit booth has gone home sick. She's got a migraine. Can you go and cover?" And I look at him. I'm like, I'm literally covered in another man's blood. My shirt is just caked in train grease that was dripping on, from the wheels and so forth. And I look at him. I went, "Yeah, all right." I said, "Can I go and get a shower first?" She goes, "Yeah, go get yourself sorted out, mate. You'll be right." So I walk upstairs and I see one of the superintendents, and he just looks at me and goes, "What the fuck happened to you?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, it was a rough one, boss." And I go and have a shower, change my shirt, and I jump in the car and I go to the booth at Flinders Street and finish the shift there.
Correct on.
And I was actually going on leave after that shift, which was a good thing. And I came back, and I can't remember the guy I was working with his name, but I said, "Where's he gone? I haven't seen him around. Is he moved to one of the other crews?" "Oh no, he quit."
Oh really?
"When he quit?" He goes, "Yeah, it wasn't for him. He quit."
A weekend.
And I bump into him about 6 months later. I said, "Mate, what?" And he goes, "Looking the way how calm you were underneath that train and what you did," he goes, "I never would be able to do that." And I looked at him and said, "Mate, I wasn't calm." I said, "Mate, I was shitting myself." I said, "There was nothing I could do for that guy." I said, I still dream about that every day, almost every day. There's not at that stage, not a day that went past where I didn't think of that circumstance. And then to come back to the station and go, literally covered in blood and train grease and dirt and looking like shit. And the sergeant says, "Can you go back and work the remaining shift on the down at the booth?" Well, you're not really looking after the welfare of your people there. You get the standard email, "Oh, we believe you've been part of a traumatic incident. Do you need help?" And you're just like, "Oh, fuck off." Like if that happened today, the person would be on, compulsory leave for 2 weeks, which I think is a good thing
with psych support.
Yeah, with support. But back then it was just like, "Oh, deal with it." And there was, that was the last I really spent at transit. I moved down to the Bayside area at that stage, and that was a busy area. I was working at the Cheltenham police station, which was busy because it had a major Westfield shopping centre across the road. So you get a lot of shoplifters, all that kind of stuff, which was a massive pain in the ass. So much paperwork for such a simple thing. It's just ridiculous. But there was the incident there that was probably the beginning of the end for me. I had an open internal affairs file as well, complaint file, all this kind of stuff. I'm just like, oh, God, I'd been training my ass off to try it for the SOG. I'd got myself into incredible shape to do it. I was ready for it mentally, physically, and I was doing a night shift. And myself and my partner, we got called to one of the local pool halls, and it was just a guy refusing to leave because he'd had too much to drink. Standard job. And we go to this pool hall, and there's the guy, and he was friendly. He goes, "Mate, they won't serve me any food." I said, "Mate, there's a McDonald's next door. Just go there." I said, "You've had too much to drink. I don't want to have to lock you up for drunk. Let's just call it a night." So, yeah, I'll just call it a night. Right? I said, "Great." And as we got to the front door, I opened the door and I just put my hand on the arch of his back, and he goes, "Don't touch me." I said, "Mate, there's no need to get upset. We're just, you go and get something to eat." Next thing you know, his thumb is in my eye and he's got it deep into my eye. And I'm like, "Oh," and I managed to pull back and he's squared up. Now, I've trained, I've boxed and kickboxed most of my adult life. He's come at me, I've stepped to the side and I've thrown overhand right, bang, I've hit him flush on the jaw. Could not have been more perfect. I was proud of the punch. He looks at me and says, "Is that all you got, cunt?" And I remember in that split second going, yeah, that was pretty much it. So if that hasn't knocked you out, mate, I am in fucking all sorts here. And he then, my female partner then, silly, she ran in and he's just, boom, elbow, she's out. Right, I'm like, "Well, it's you and me now, mate." And he just tackles and it's on. It's a really rough fight. I remember we fell to the ground. He's got the upper hand. He's just showing incredible strength. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm in a bad way here," because he was reaching for my stuff in my belt, so I'm trying to protect that as well. And I was then throwing elbows up into his head just to get him off my belt. And then I heard this smack noise, and I'm like, "What the fuck was that?" And whatever it was got him off it. And I look up, it's a punter from the pool hall who's just wrapped a pool cue around the back of his head, which gave me enough time to get the handcuffs on him and so I could have him restrained. So I looked over at my partner, and she's coming to, and she says to me, "You're bleeding." I said, "Where?" And she goes, "Your eye." And I put my hand in my eye, and I looked at the blood, and my eye shut down, complete whiteout. I'm like, "Oh, that's not good." And then I went and put pressure down on my leg. And I'm like, "Oh, something's not right there either." So it turns out this guy had been on a 6-day ice bender.
Yeah, right.
We learned this, later down the road. 6-day ice bender. So when I punched him, it was just like, "Is that all you got?" That's why that methamphetamine gives people superhuman strength and no pain, pain tolerance through the roof.
Yeah.
And he's just, was feeling none of it and was ready to fight the world. So myself and my partner went to the hospital. I've got a scratch on my retina. That's why my eye shut down. It was just the body's natural reaction. They've x-rayed my leg and I've got a crack in my patella. And I'm meant to be starting the SOG pre-selection course in a week's time. I was fucking devastated. I was absolutely fucking devastated. And I remember ringing my best mate who's in the SOG, and I said, "Mate, I'm out. I've got my knees completely fucking cactus." And he goes, "Oh, fuck." And so it turns out, and this is where it was probably beginning with the end for me because I could see the way policing was going, and in this sense, is this guy went to court, he gets remanded, and he gets to appear at court. This was happened on a Saturday night. Who appears to appearing in court first thing Monday morning. I get a phone call from one of the detectives saying the magistrate let him out. I said, what? Magistrate, I won't say her name, but very famous for being very soft on crooks.
Yeah.
And she said, this poor man doesn't need jail. He needs drug rehab, which is true. He does need drug rehab. But in the process, he's assaulted two police officers and put them both in hospital.
Yeah.
Lets him go. And with the condition that he reports to a drug rehab centre. Right? He doesn't report to the drug rehab centre. He just disappears. So instantly there's a warrant out for his arrest. He goes to his mother's house. He says, Mum, I need some money. The mother's had enough of him. No, not giving you anything. Get out of my house. Punches Mum in the face, gives her a hairline fracture in her jaw, steals her wallet, steals the DVD player, takes her jewellery. He gets, police catch up to him. It takes that for him to go to jail. Not the fact that you've just assaulted two police officers, put one out of action for the better part of 6 weeks, knocked out another female, knocked out another police officer, a female, half the perp size. But it took that to get him to jail, and
it shouldn't have happened.
He ended up doing 2 years, but I'm like, because he had a string of stuff. By the way, he was on bail for other offences.
Oh, he was on bail when he
was on bail when he attacked us. So that was like I was doing some PT work part time at the time, and I decided to go to that full time. Left the police force. As I said, I had an open internal affairs file. I was not liking where I was. I was hating policing.
What year was this?
This was now around 2013.
Okay.
So this has been 10 years. Stories of 10 years we've just gone over. And got into the PT game, and was in and out of the gym industry for the better part of all the way up to about 2020. When I've in that time I've met my now ex-wife, and we've had a child together. And when we broke up, she moved up to Sydney, and I was going up there on once a month to visit him. To visit my son. And I was just like, oh, bugger this, I'm going to move. I'm just going to move up to Sydney. And I moved to Sydney January 26, 2020. 6 weeks later, the world shut down. Thankfully, I got out of Melbourne because it was the most locked down city in the world. And it was during that time that I started thinking, you know what, I'm going to probably go back to the military. And I was looking at jobs I could do and jobs I wanted to do. And the first job I wanted to go for was clearance driver, and they said, oh, you've got a respiratory issue, and they sent me to doctors and specialists and all this kind of stuff. And they came back to me and said, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, ugh, devastated. Like I said, I would have loved that, right? And I said, well, what about the aviation warfare officer, which is like the mission commander of the helicopters? And they said, oh, no, the same respiratory requirements for that, for the clearance driver are required for that. And I said, why? And she said, oh, because you're on oxygen when you're in a helicopter. I'm like, no, you're not. And she's like, yeah, she is. She's look at these pictures. I said, that's not an oxygen mask. That's just like the face shields they wear. And I'm like, what? And she looks at me with a straight face. This is the girl from recruitment, and says, when a helicopter gets up to 33,000 feet, you need oxygen. And I went, find me a helicopter that gets up to 33,000 feet, and I'll pay your wage for 3 weeks. She had no idea, this woman, right? So I'm going through all these different, and I found that out the day that I was going into interview for the job. When you're doing those interviews with Defence Force recruiting.
Yeah.
And I just said, oh God, what am I going to do in that? And I said, well, what about an intelligence officer? I said, I know how to do investigations. I've got an investigative background, so forth. And this girl at recruitment, she goes, oh, you need a university degree for that. I went, you serious? And she goes, oh yeah, most of the kids that go to Intel are from ADFA. And I said, you're trying to tell me a kid that's come out of ADFA has got more life experience than me? Someone who's actually done investigative work and this, that, and the other. And she goes, oh, probably not. So I said, I'd like to speak to someone about it. So they said, yeah, you can do that. And this is when I stupidly, fell for it. The guy at recruitment wasn't one of the military guys, was one of the civilian guys that worked there. She goes, this is what you do. sign up as a maritime warfare officer. He's the guy that drives the boats. When you get to Creswell, just transfer over to Intel. You can do that. And I went, okay. I've got no reason not to believe that because the first experience I had with DFR was quite good. Walked in there, signed up. Next thing you know, I was there. I believe it. I get to Creswell. I've got no interest in driving ships. I get to Creswell and I say to my lieutenant, right, I've done my first 4 weeks now. I'm ready to transfer over to Intel. He goes, who told you that? I said, the guys at recruitment. And he goes, oh, for fuck's sake.
Gotcha.
Got me. Right? So Intel's full at this stage. They're not recruiting, despite the fact they're still recruiting off the street for it, they wouldn't do lateral transfers because that's not increasing the Navy's numbers. It's one of these things. So my time at Creswell was fantastic. Have you ever been down to Jarvis Bay?
No.
There's one thing the Australian Navy does well, mate, as you know, is their bases are at the most beautiful places in Australia.
Yeah.
And Jarvis Bay, HMAS Creswell, is hands down the most beautiful military base on the planet. It is sensational down there. It is Hymes Beach. It's fucking beautiful. And here I am at 46 years of age, starting my Navy officer career. And I've got people in my squad turning 18.
Yeah.
And I'm 46. I'm like, and there was me and another guy who was in his mid-30s, had been both Army and he'd also been in the Navy for a long time as well. And I knew the Navy had changed when it was one of the guys' birthdays and the lieutenant and the PO bring him in a cake on his birthday and we all sing happy birthday. The lieutenants and the PO have brought this in, lit the candles and we're all singing happy birthday. And I just remember looking at the other more older bloke and going, what the fuck is going on? What's happening? What? This would never happen. I went back to that, and I'm waiting for the hammer to drop. I'm waiting to get screamed at. And one of the lieutenants is a fucking great guy. He pulls me aside and goes, mate, if you're waiting for the hammer to drop here, it's not going to happen. I said, what do you mean? He goes, it's not the way it's done these days, mate. I heard one officer raise his voice once in the entire time I was at Creswell. And that was to tell a guy to stop running.
That was the voice for him to hear.
That was it. And it was, but you've got a lot of very smart people going into these jobs because a lot of these jobs are very technically proficient. Like you've got guys and girls that have been engineers. The MWO role itself, I had no idea how hard it was. I mean, I passed all the tests to do it, but when I actually got onto the course, I'm like, oh shit! And I've got the utmost respect for anyone who passes that course because it's 2 years long and it's tough. The Australian standards are tough, which is a good thing. But it was just never for me. So I basically graduated from Creswell, did exceptionally well at Creswell. And I don't think I'm speaking out of school when I say I had the respect of the instructors, the senior sailors and my peers. And it was the same way when I got to, the different bases that I was going to as well. But I very quickly pulled myself off the MO course once I graduated. And then I spent the next 2.5 years fighting the Navy about where I should be. And they said to me, they basically gave my final ultimatum because I'd been just bouncing around doing admin work. I joined to be in the thick of it, in the fight. I believe there is a war coming. I was ready to put myself out there. You want somebody like me that's willing to do that. But they had me doing admin work and they pulled me aside. My final ultimatum was, you can become a human resources officer or you're out. I said, human resources? I'm the guy that ends up in front of fucking human resources. I'm not the guy who's a human resource. But I went and did the work experience, so to speak, that I had to do and then was just filling out the form saying, yes, I'm totally keen to be a human resources officer. Fucking not keen at all. And then it's just a matter of all I need now is the signature of the head HR guy at this base that I was at the time at Cuttable. And then I can go down and do the course. I'll stay in the Navy. I'll get a qualification and I'll make the transfer to intelligence later. He calls my bluff. He goes, mate, this isn't for you and you know it. I'm like, no, it is, sir. I'm keen. He goes, tell me about policy. I'm like, oh, shit. I don't have the first clue about policy. I've done enough to get me through to this point, and he goes, no. And then, next thing you know, they've given me a notice to show cause of why we should keep you in the Navy. And next thing you know, I'm out. And I just said, what a waste of fucking time. You know, like
RNI end. You got RNI end, retention, not the interest of the Navy.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, I think it's called something different now. But I mean, I was, you know, I got 17 references from senior officers of my rank, senior sailors from around the Navy saying, this guy needs to be an officer. We need people like this. There was a handful of officers that just dug their heels in and said no.
What happened to the maritime warfare officer track?
I got off that straight away. I pulled off that course almost immediately.
Oh, okay.
Because it was
so you did your basic officer training?
Yeah, did my Creswell training, and then, you know, I was just, you know, and this is the thing too, like, you know, a lot of the guys that I went through Creswell with, they were waiting up to 2 years before they even got on their qualification courses.
Yeah, right.
So you had, you know, sub-lieutenants, lieutenants, midshipmen like myself doing admin jobs, moving spreadsheets around. Just mind-numbing. It was depressing, mate. I was like, I actually am depressed going to work because it was just, I should be fantastic that I'm looking over the Sydney Harbour from the office, but I'm moving a spreadsheets, you know, around, you know, and booking things for the, you know, civilian craft to go out and do all this kind of, it was the most boring job in the world. And where they put me at port services, you actually learnt actually how dysfunctional our Navy is at the moment. We've got a lot of problems with our ships. They're all outdated. They're all broken. They're all getting retired. And, you know, it's you know, and I'm not shit canning the people of the Navy because they're doing the best with what they've got. But the hierarchy and the upper echelons of our Defence Department need to look at getting this shit done quicker, getting more ships, getting more people to fill the ship, and looking after your people, because there's a reason people are leaving in droves. Because people are like, no, you're treating me like shit, I'm out. And in my case, and there was probably, I think out of the graduating class of my Creswell class, I think there's already been 73 people who finished, and there's already 20 odd people who've already been discharged or quit. So it says a lot, you know?
Yeah.
So I found myself, you know, without a job. You know, like I'd liked being an officer. I thought I was good at it. And I found myself in this deep state of depression because I was just like, fuck, what am I going to do at my age? You know, I failed. I failed, you know, my son who knew that daddy was in the Navy and he chases pirates. That's his mentality. That was, you know, that, you know, I was, my fiance was feeling the stress for her because she could see I was coming home just distressed and pissed off and this, that and the other. And she was almost glad when they finally said, you're out. And
you never went to sea? Never went to sea? Just working all admin?
Just working all admin, you know, and, you know, and I look at the guys I went through now who've finished their courses and they're getting sea time. I couldn't be happier for them, but it's taken this long for all that to happen. And they're doing very well. And I worry for them now because I do believe there is something big coming, and I don't think our ships are up to scratch.
Yeah, it's too slow to fucking upgrade anything.
You know, we've basically got the 3 Hobart class destroyers, which are our you know, our Frontline. The Anzacs are completely outdated, you know, compared to some of our adversary ships. We've got 2 helicopter landing docks that are, you know, if they're working, it's a miracle. You know, it's, you know, and we've got a couple of supply ships which essentially are both broken. And they're just trying to make do, you know. So we haven't got a lot, and considering the coastline we have, we should have the biggest Navy in the world. Yeah. But we don't.
Undermanned as well.
Yeah, so very undermanned, and they're trying. You know, they're struggling to find the people to fill the ships.
Yeah, they're struggling to find people, so they put people on back-to-back rotations, and then they fuck off because they can't handle them.
Because they're burnt out, and you know, like, you know, you're doing, you know, 6-7 months away a year at sea. Takes a toll.
Come back for your month fucking respite, and a week into it, they're like, "Oh, you're fucking back out. We haven't got
we've got no engine. We've got no engineer, or, you know, for this, you've got to go."
Yeah,
and you're packing your bags. You're on a different ship, and off you go. So I found myself, as I said, depressed and bloody just with no purpose. And I found my old storybooks, and I've written stories since I was a kid, and I found some of them ones dating back to when I was like in my teens. And, mate, some of them were so bad. Some of these stories were so bad. I'm reading them laughably bad. And I was reading through them, and I was reading them to my fiancée, and she's laughing. You know. At the time, I thought, God, this is amazing. I've come up with my own cinematic universe here, you know. But I knew there was the one story that I had that would work with the current state of the world, and that's where Frontline Earth came to be. Next thing you know, it's 20,000 words in and 50,000 words in and 80,000 words in. And
it's quite a big book, actually.
It's 112,000 words and
344
pages. And I started sending out sample chapters to some... Oh, look out. Careful, mate.
Dropping gap.
Don't drop the Glock. Started sending sample chapters out to some agents, and I had an agent get back to me. She says, you're onto something, keep going. And I then sent her what I call my conspiracy chapter in the book. And that was what made her sign me.
Oh, yeah.
And she said to me, she says, oh, you've got such a great imagination. Where do you come up with all these things? I said, look them up. Google them because they're real. You know, so I say the book is a military thriller with elements of conspiracy, a lot of conspiracy, espionage, and science fiction all wrapped into one. Then I learn about the publishing industry. So I'm sending my books out to as I said, sending sample chapters out to agents, and then my agent is then pushing it to publishers. And we had one of the big houses get back to us and say, we're interested. Okay. But there's an 18-month backlog on new author fiction. Mm-hmm. So unless you've got intellectual property, a famous name, you're not getting your book made done anytime soon. So she said, would you think about self-publishing? And I said, it takes a bit of the shine off it, you know, like you know. As I've now learned, most people are self-publishing these days, you know, especially to get started. But the publishing house that I went with, they offered grants, and you then go through a process of a reader at the publishing house reads it, sends it on to a senior reader, sends it on to the chief reader. And if you get through those stages, it goes through the board of editors. And there's 7 people on the board, and you need to get 4 out of 7 for it to be approved. I got 7 out of 7, and they gave me a publishing agreement. So I kept going with it, and I finished writing the book early last year. So we're in January 2026 now. I finished writing it in February 2025. And then the process that it is today, which I only got the first 25 copies sent to me 3 weeks ago, and it officially went on sale January 2nd. Okay. So it's available now on Amazon, on the Austin McCulley website. I'll be setting up my own website for it as well, but it's been a very interesting process, learning about this industry, and of course then learning how to self-promote. Mm-hmm. And, you know, my agent said, you know, you've got to start promoting yourself. I said, what do you mean? She said, you've got to start an Instagram page. You've got to start doing podcasts. I said, what, appearing on them? She goes, no, doing them. Oh, yeah. I'm like, really?
What do you have to do a podcast for?
Because it's all about promotion about the book. You know, it's all about, you know, getting your name out there and this, that, and that. And as I'm learning, that's what everyone does. If you're not self-promoting these days for things like that, you're a dinosaur. If you've got anything you want to promote, you've got to be doing that. So I started doing all the content creation. All the videos I do on my page are all related around the book. Okay. Topics around the book. So we talk about, you know, the corruption of mainstream media, the rise of AI, you know, there's geopolitics, government overreach. But the first video I did was actually a tribute to a fallen police officer in Tasmania, Keith Smith, who was murdered mid last year. He was the first police officer in Tasmania murdered in over 100 years. Yeah, right. So the first video I did was a tribute to him. Not only a couple of months later, I'm doing a tribute to the 2 Victorian police officers murdered in Porpunka by that in the bush in the bush there by that sovereign citizen wanker. And you know, my following has been growing slowly, and I've been getting the name out there. But I just saw in the past week I did a video on Bondi. Oh, yeah. And my feelings and thoughts on that situation. And it went through the roof. Nice. Yeah, first of all, the videos didn't get approved by Instagram. Mm-hmm. They said, no, it's obviously an AI algorithm that flags some of the keywords that you say, and then it has to go in front of human for human approval. And, you know, we sent a limit saying, listen, we've said nothing that the news hasn't already said, and they which is not quite true. But they approved it and went gangbuster from there. And it's funny when you talk about things getting approved and so forth. I did a video on the Epstein list.
Oh yeah.
And because I did the video on the videos I do are all on YouTube, and then we just cut them up on Instagram.
Yeah.
So my videos on YouTube, we're not really pushing the YouTube algorithm at the moment, but I normally get between a few hundred to 1,500 views on average for the videos. The Epstein one got 60 views.
Yeah, and I'm like, shadow ban it.
I'm like, oh, they've flagged that one for sure. They've flagged that one for sure. Like, it's funny how they do that, but that's what they initially did the Bondi one, and the whole because I only live in Coogee. I live one suburb away from Bondi.
Yeah.
The aftermath the police set up their command centre in Coogee, so they could be closer to the crime scene. And it's just bizarre to me that this has happened on Australian soil. Mm. I mean, the circles we move in, we've been saying this is just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Like, how many people do you know that have said it's not a matter of if, but when? Mm. And I instantly came back to a report I wrote at in April last year. I was applying for a university grant. The university degree was in intelligence and counterterrorism. And the question I got asked for this university grant was, what do you think the biggest threat to Australia in regards to terrorism is? And I wrote a report saying an October 7 style attack here in Australia, but you wouldn't need 1,500 people. You could shut the state down with 12. And I wrote a report about how if there was 3 groups of 4 or 4 groups of 3 at different locations across New South Wales doing an active shooter style attack or a car attack or a knife attack or whatever the situation, it would shut the state down. Because we saw one man with a knife in Bondi only a couple of years before shut the entire suburb of Bondi down. That's one man with a knife. What would 3 to 4 groups of trained Al-Qaeda, ISIS terrorists do? The only thing I got wrong in that report was the fact that they happened to use legal firearms, and there was only 2 of them. Mm. If you read that report I wrote, it's almost to the letter. Mm-hmm. I didn't get the university grant, but they sent me when it's just a generic email. If you'd like some feedback, give us a call.
Right.
I went, okay, I'll see where I went wrong. Harley, I swear to God, I've still got this email. And I said, I still got this email, and I said I'd like to get some feedback. And they said, okay, someone will email you back with the why. This person emailed me and said, and I quote, "We were looking for a realistic scenario, not a movie script." And these are the people that are teaching intelligence and counterterrorism to potential analysts for our intelligence agencies.
Yeah, right.
And that was their attitude. I said, a movie script? We've seen this scenario play out across the world a dozen times in the past 10 years. How was that a movie script? Like, I was really pissed off. And when Bondi happened, I went over, I got my computer up, I looked up the report, and I went, what? And I actually posted it on my Instagram page with the heading, "This was ignored."
Oh, yeah.
And you can see the timestamp of when I wrote it and things like that. It's scary, mate. Prediction. It's scary. But, writing has become something I've actually found I'm good at and I enjoy. The creative writing is fantastic. Yeah. There's plenty of people that write, with our backgrounds, that write books about their lives.
You thought about that?
Well, no, that would be a very boring story, mate. That would be the most average. The heading would be the title would be the most average police and military career in Australia. Creative writing was a lot of fun, because you get to write about all these things that are real, but through the eyes of fiction. Mm. So when I'm talking about conspiracy and things like that, the conspiracies in the book, we only have to do a simple computer search to find out that a lot of these things in the book have actually happened. They've either been buried, or you just have to go through 16 levels of bullshit to find out the real answers. One of the characters in the book, the rogue journalist in the book, one of his lines is, the only difference between a conspiracy and the truth is 6 months. And how many times have we seen that play out over the past 10 years where it starts off as, oh, that's crazy, and then they slowly feed us information to the point with, oh, that actually happened, but they've fed us enough information, we've just accepted it now.
Yeah.
One of the things I talk about in the book, and one of the characters they talk about, is the ATIP report, which is the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which is for, in layman's terms, all the UFOs and UAPs that everyone's seeing. Now, that's a report that got released to the public. It's a 167-page report. I read all 167 pages of it. It was released in March or April of 2021. It made the news for about a day. The fact that the US government and senior whistleblowers from the US government are saying, oh, yeah, by the way, aliens are real. We don't know what these are. They're not ours. And we're dealing with technology not of this world. How the fuck that wasn't the front page headline across the world, but what was happening in 2021? COVID. We were more concerned about the daily numbers than the fact that the US government has just admitted, yeah, we've been dealing with aliens for years. What the fuck are you guys talking about? Talk about that. I don't give a fuck about the numbers. It's a flu. Fuck off. Yeah. It's just, I couldn't believe it, mate. But I go into a lot. I go into history. I go into conspiracy. It's done through 3 different timelines. There's flashbacks to World War III, foreshadowing to something else, and the current story. So it's been a lot of fun. All the characters in the book are named after people in my life, or based on people in my life. So the main character is based on 4 of my good friends. The character CJ is based on my friend who, the CJ is a character who is a former reality TV star who joins the Navy as a PTI. That is a real person in my life. The character Robbo is a naval intelligence officer. It's a real person in my life. This is all the things. It was more fun that way as well. Yeah. Because when I was writing the character, I would just picture that person, and it made it easier to write. But, I've spoken to the publisher. They're interested in the sequel already. So I'm 60,000 words into the sequel, but that's been put on hold at the moment whilst we desperately push this book. And hopefully I have J.K. Rowling success.
What's the best way to buy it that gives you the most fucking financial benefit?
If you go to my Instagram page, the XL Brief, the letter X, the letter L, Brief, one word, you'll see I'll have my link up to my Shopify and website once we get it up and going. You can get it right now with the Yosta McCulley website, or you can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Oh, and the audiobook's coming out as well. They sent me voice samples today, and I hated them all. They gave me posh-sounding English blokes, and I said, we need an American. So they're going to have to find me an American for the voice, but you can get it on hardback, paperback, Kindle, and the audiobook is coming.
Fucking beautiful.
Yeah. You've got a copy now, mate. You've got one of the first 25 copies, so there you go.
Oh, look out.
Yeah.
I'll have to get you to write me a personalised note on there.
Well, that might be pushed up, mate. My handwriting's terrible.
Be worth a fortune one day. Yeah, no, fuck, you'd have I like what you're doing with the turning non-fiction into fiction, and gives you a bit of creative freedom. And
well, I think there's a lot of people in the industries we've been in, whether it be military and law enforcement, and I think it's a real shame because there's some very artistic people. How many people did you work with that were amazing musicians, singers, artists, drawers? How many people did we work with that had us doubled over laughing every time we saw them? I think these industries, first responding and military, actually attract a lot of really creative people.
Yeah, true.
And I think it's a shame we don't see more of it because, I've worked with guys that were phenomenal musicians, guys that could be stand-up comedians, no problems, just like that. Guys that could go on to be paint or draw for a living, but they don't. They don't follow those passions, and this is something that I've fallen into. It was literally therapy for me to, to keep my mind busy while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, and it's actually turned into something.
Yeah, beautiful. What's the, you've mentioned a couple of times about the therapy and depression and stuff. So when you got out of the Navy, that was pretty hard?
It was, mate. It was real hard because, the transition out is rough. I don't think people that have never worn uniform don't realise how tough the transition is into the civilian world. Because military or first responding is not something you do, it's something you are.
Yeah.
and your identity is attached to it, and there's a certain amount of pride you have about yourself. There's a certain amount of ego that comes along with it as well. And this is something I found, when people would ask, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a police officer or a Navy officer. There was that, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, you're the most interesting guy in the room, right?
Yeah, right. And then that's gone. I was like, shit, well, what am I now?
Yeah.
Well, what you are is you're a good person that's done some good work, and it's time to move on.
Yeah.
I'd still like somehow to be involved, in policing or first responding and things like that and the other, because I think it's hard for blokes like us to let go.
Yeah, for sure.
If this book starts going J.K. Rowling success, then I won't worry about it at all. But still, there's still a big part of me that still wants to be in the thick of it.
Yeah,
especially when it's something like Bondi happens. You kind of say, God, I wish I was there to help.
Yeah, fucking oath. You're watching all the videos, inserting yourself into different spots, going, this is what I would do here and there. And
well, you think about when the Westfield attack happened with the guy with the knife. And I remember my partner saying to me, she goes, what would you have done? I said, I'd like to think I'd be one of the guys that grabbed a bollard or grabbed a chair or grabbed something and just throw at the guy. Problem is, 9 times out of 10 when I'm at that Westfield, I'm with my son. We're normally going to the movies, we're going to the arcade, so it would have been, nope, out.
Right now.
And he would have been the priority. But if I was there by myself, I'd like to think I'd be one of those guys that would do that. Pick up a chair, pick up a bollard, pick up anything just to whip at that loser's head.
Yeah.
And I won't say his name because he's a piece of shit. And that's why I don't say in my videos on the Bondi, I don't say their names.
You want to give him the recognition now?
Well, he apparently, this is speculative at the moment, but the youngest bloke said he wanted to be remembered. I'm not going to. Not going to give you.
Remember the heroes of the day, not the.
I'm going to remember the heroes of the day. I'm going to remember I'm going to remember the victims of the
Matilda.
day. Yeah, exactly.
Matilda.
Well, that Matilda for me, when that poor little girl, 10 years old, my niece is 10, and her name is Matilda.
Oh fuck!
So it was just like, ugh. And what kind of piece of shit you are? You aim at a 10-year-old girl,
mate. I've got a.
You would have known what you were aiming at, you piece of shit.
I've got an 11-year-old daughter. I fucking felt that.
Yeah, and you got guys, charging him with bricks, throwing bricks at him. Yeah. Bringing a knife to a gunfight, but you're still having a crack. The bloke that disarmed him, the couple that disarmed them initially.
Yeah.
Fantastic work done by the lifeguards running towards it in their bloody thongs and shorts and T-shirt and a trauma kit. The ambos that didn't get clearance to go in but still did. The surfers, making makeshift stretches out of their surfboards and getting people to waiting ambulances and things like that. The coppers that were actually in the gunfight, and people are saying, the police should have done this, the police should have done that. All right, mate, you get shot at and come talk to. Oh, that's what police are paid to do. I said, yeah, they're not. It's better if they're doing what they were doing and trying to take the guy out by taking cover and get the best angle, this, that, and the other. But people don't realise that's not the movies.
No.
And that gang.
Well, you see it in America, and they think that our police are just as equipped, but fucking we don't have gun violence on the street every day. It's not a norm for them.
Well, we don't have it against civilians. I mean, we have it. Crooks are knocking each other off all the time. There's a shooting every second day in Western Sydney. There's a drive-by shooting every second day in Western Sydney. It's all over the news all the time. But what people don't realise is, apart from that police officer who took those shots from 40 metres away, I mean, anyone who understands pistols understands what an amazing shot that was. The average punter thinks that's easy to do. Let me give you the hot tip, average punter. It's fucking not.
Yeah. Go down to a pistol club and fucking.
Well, and that's the thing we're talking about, being prepared and being trained and all that kind of stuff. Is the fact of the matter is that detective was a recreational pistol shooter. He was going down to the range on weekends and shooting guns. It became his sport. That's why he could do it.
Yeah.
Plenty of other police officers engaged the two gunmen on the day and didn't hit them. When you're only getting 50 rounds a year to qualify, you can't become a proficient shooter like that.
Yeah. You got to do the extra work.
But they don't have it. Well, I don't think that's something that's really important that has to be covered. And one of the things I wrote in that report is, at the very least, the patrol sergeant should have access to a long arm, whether it be a carbine or some kind of a shotgun, something that's going to be able to reach out a bit further than a pistol. Because pistols are designed for close quarter self-defense. They're not designed for running combat.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool, man. That's fucking. You're totally wrong about your story, though. Fucking, it's a great story. You live quite the life. You've seen some fucking wild stuff.
Well, I'm an old man, mate. I've squeezed a lot into my 50, almost 50 years. I'm 50 in April. I know I still look good, all right, but
You're looking jacked, mate.
Well, mate, the dad body is increasing significantly. I'm finding it a lot harder I don't take my top off in public anymore. It's not as pretty as it used to be. Things are going south. I'm finding it very hard to maintain muscle, but I'm still doing it. I'll still do it to the day I drop off.
I say that every day at the gym. I'm fucking fighting off the dad bod one pad session at a time. They call it old man pads at the gym now.
We got that old man strength, mate. It may not be ripped, all right, but it's still there. It's still there.
Yeah. Well, it's just a good example of doing those sort of things, like recreational shooting, martial arts. You'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a
100%
gardener in a war.
100%. Keep the training up. To any potential young copper out there, soldier, sailor, airman. Maintain your training.
Yeah.
Because you train for the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is not going to happen every day.
Yeah.
But when it does, fuck, you better be ready.
Yeah.
Fuck, you better be ready for it.
Even coppers, like, fucking go down and join a jiu-jitsu club and fucking learn how to fight in your own time. Because how much more comfortable are you going to be in a fucking conflict with a crim, whatever you call them, when you feel more confident in your abilities rather than, oh, fuck, this guy's probably going to fuck me up.
I think this is just me, but I know it's been floated around on other podcasts and things like that, but I think at a bare minimum, you should have to have some kind of martial arts background to even join. Yeah, because martial arts isn't about going out there looking for fights. It's training you to be an animal, but being able to control it.
Yeah.
And it's training you to be a killer, but being able to control it. That's the whole discipline. That's the whole thing of martial arts. You've been doing it for a long time, mate. Everybody down at my Muay Thai gym that I go to down at Bondi, shout out to Owen at 8 Limbs. How you doing, mate? They're the nicest people in the world.
Yeah.
They're not looking for fights. And you wouldn't pick these guys as absolute monsters.
Yeah.
But they're absolute killers. And if you saw them down the street, you wouldn't think anything of it. It's the guy with the big bravado that's, ripping off his shirt and all this kind of stuff.
He's the most insecure.
The guy that smiles in a confrontation, that's the one you got to worry about. When some guy's sitting there going, I'm going to rip you apart, and the guy goes, okay, sure. Oh. Did I just fuck up? They're the guys you worry about.
No.
They're the guys you worry about. But no, sure. every cop and soldier should be doing something like that.
Yeah, 100%.
At the very least, maintaining your fitness to a high standard.
Yeah.
Because you might not be able to fight well, but do you have the cardio to keep going? Because most coppers go down all the time in fights. You're always going to come across people that are better. If you go down swinging. No, don't sit there and run away or back off. Go down swinging.
Yeah.
And there's such a lack of respect for the police these days. It's only getting more dangerous for them.
Yeah.
Make sure you know how to fight.
Yeah, for sure. It is that kind of job.
It is, mate.
Cool, man. Well, thanks.
Great chat.
Thanks again.
Mate, we're going to get to the airport.
Wrap it up. Thanks, guys.
See you guys. And the third time was about just before I left for transit. I was at transit and I was in a car. Again, the sergeant's driver. I tell you what, I was always in the shit job. There's a report coming of 2 men sword fighting in the fucking street in Richmond, which is only, Melbourne. Richmond's the next suburb over. I'm like, what the fuck? So we go racing towards there. Long story short, what's happened? His chopper's walking down the street. He lives in Richmond. He's walking down the street. Some young buck sees Chopper and goes, he stabbed my dad when we were in prison. So this kid goes and gets a fucking club lock. Just walks up to Chopper, fucking crack, gives him a crack across there. Chopper stumbled, starts fucking throwing punch. stumbles into a fucking mechanic shop and pulls out a fucking tyre iron. Next thing you know, there's two guys are fucking duking it out in the fucking middle of the fucking street, right? So we've got both these guys now back at the station, and me and the sergeant walk in and see Mark, and Mark's getting treated. He's got a nasty gash in his fucking head. And the sergeant's like, listen, mate, we've got the reports. We understand you were the one who assaulted your defendant. He said, you want to press charge? He goes, nah, it's just a game, mate. It's just a game. It's all part of the game. Like, I get it. I stabbed his dad. I don't remember it. I'm sure I did. I'm just sitting there going, what the fuck?